I build Noah's Ark for humanity. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1. It started from a dream. The capital of Huaxia, Beijing University, dormitory 502. It should have been an afternoon of enjoying the joy of college life, but Jiang Sheng sat on the bed motionless for 5 minutes. The reason was that Jiang Sheng had just had a dream, a terrifying and real dream. In the dream, Jiang Sheng saw a doomsday scene. First, the mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and all the beasts cried, and then the sky was swallowed by endless darkness. The people in the city were either fleeing or biting each other, as if they were awakening some kind of primitive desire. At the last moment, Jiang Sheng seemed to have opened the god's perspective, standing in space, and saw with his own eyes that the blue color, that only the earth was unique to, was swallowed by a huge white light. These pictures were extremely real and clear, as if they were deeply imprinted in Jiang Sheng's brain. Even though he had woken up now, thinking about it again, Jiang Sheng was still frightened. At this time, Jiang Sheng was slowly sorting out the pictures that had just appeared in his mind, as well as the extra plan in his mind after the dream picture ended. This is a space colony construction plan called Noah. Regarding this plan, Jiang Sheng could not find any information about the plan proposer, implementation details, and the ultimate goal of the plan. The only thing he knew was that he was now the executor of this plan, and his body had been bound to the implementation location of the Noah plan. Jiang Sheng was not pedantic, and he had read some novels about binding portable space, but as a progressive young man in the new era, it was better to believe less about such things. It's better to believe less. Anyway, there is no loss, so believe it a little. Sitting on the bed, Jiang Sheng glanced to the left and right, and after making sure that there was no one else in the dormitory, he said the shameful line, "Open sesame." He looked around and saw that there was no space vortex or anything like that. No plan. Still no change. "I want to travel through time. Come to the door." After trying more than a dozen middle school lines and gestures, Jiang Sheng gave up. Looking at his collar, that was slightly wet with cold sweat, Jiang Sheng wanted to go out and wash his face, and then pretend that nothing had happened. But he never expected that when he opened the dormitory door, what Jiang Sheng saw was not the familiar corridor, but a silver white light curtain. Through the light curtain, Jiang Sheng could vaguely see some brown objects. The next second, Jiang Sheng found himself in a cave. Did he travel through time? This is a cave, and a completely closed cave. The brown object he saw just now is the most common sand and gravel in the cave. Although there is no sunlight in the cave, Jiang Sheng can still see the surrounding environment clearly. Looking behind him, it turned out that a white arch-shaped object provided Jiang Sheng with light. The white arch is about 3 meters high, and the surface of the arch is full of metal texture. At the top of the arch, there is a huge spherical light bulb that is lit. Somehow, as if attracted by the pattern on the arch, that does not have much aesthetic feeling, Jiang Sheng reached out and touched the edge of the arch. Ding, the existence of intelligent life is detected, and the Noah plan is activated successfully. Binding completed. The visual command system is being generated. The visual command system has been generated. This voice is not real, but the voice in Jiang Sheng's brain, which sounds like a female voice without any emotion. At the same time, various parameters and options gradually appeared around Jiang Sheng's vision. Gas view, temperature view, material view, light view, germs view, resources. In addition, there are many options with dim colors. What's even more magical is that when Jiang Sheng looks at the white arch in front of him, the text describing the white arch will appear in the area on the right side of his vision. Printing chamber, a super advanced biological printer that can use survival points to continuously print replicas, and each print consumes 100 survival points. Survival points. 300 lighting brightness. 1000 lux basic composition, iron ore mass. 2000 kilogram age, temperature. 21.7 disease, 0 bacteria on the surface, specific heat capacity. 0.449 thermal conductivity. 4.000 melting point. 1534.9. New replicants will come out from here, but thank God, they will never go back. So detailed. As a junior student of environmental science at Jiang Sheng University, Jiang Sheng can still understand these physical properties with clear units, but what surprised Jiang Sheng the most was the function of this printing cabin. Survival points are easy to understand, maybe it's something like currency, but the replicant point is a bit confusing. What is a replicant? Is it a clone? Suddenly, Jiang Sheng remembered that the Noah project is a colony construction plan. Since a colony is to be built, there must be labor. There is also the so-called visual command system, which should be used to command replicants. So, replicants equals labor? Jiang Sheng looked at the small cave, and was not in a hurry to use the printing cabin to print the so-called clones, but further surveyed the environment. Next to the printing cabin, there is also a thing with a yellow main color and a shape like an oversized insulated lunchbox. When touching its surface, Jiang Sheng also obtained information about the item. Ration box can store a small amount of food. Storage. 20/150 kilograms basic composition, igneous rock, mass. 400 kilogram age, temperature. 21.7 disease, 0 bacteria on the surface. Specific heat capacity. 1.000 thermal conductivity. 2.000 melting point 1409.9. Store food to prevent other small animals from stealing, but cannot extend the shelf life of food. This thing is very easy to understand. It looks like a lunchbox, and it is actually a lunchbox, but it seems that 20 kilograms of things have been put in it now. This was verified below the resources list in Jiang Sheng's field of vision. Edible food. 16,000 cal. This is all the resources Jiang Sheng has at present. The so-called edible food should refer to the things in the ration box. Since there is edible food in it, it should be okay to open it and take a look. Jiang Sheng bent down slightly and touched the lid of the food box. With a nervous mood, he slowly lifted the lid with both hands. It's so heavy. As the lid of the ration box was opened, Jiang Sheng saw the situation inside. The layout inside the ration box is relatively simple. The partition divides the space inside into 3 parts, and a pile of bars are neatly stacked in one of them. Nutrition bar, a kind of bar with nutritional value, but the taste is hard to describe. Quality, disgusting calories. 800 decay time, never decay. The description is a bit evil. It should be a serious food. But it is definitely not for entertaining me. Jiang Sheng turned his head to look at the printing cabin on the side. These foods should belong to the replicants. Chapter to the ideal colony. In the empty dormitory, a person appeared out of thin air. After several rounds of experiments, Jiang Sheng has mastered the skills of crossing. To cross from Earth to Noah, you only need to think about crossing in your mind, and then walk through any form of door to complete the crossing. Vice versa. In addition, Jiang Sheng used the view function in the visual command system to determine some facts. The view function can detect an area with a radius of 100 meters around it, and different views can see different contents. For example, in the gas view, Jiang Sheng can see the gas situation within a radius of 100 meters. Moreover, this function is similar to the common fog of war in games. As the active area expands, the range that can be detected will also expand. Unfortunately, the area where Jiang Sheng can move now is only a small cave with an area of more than 10 square meters. The detectable range is a spherical area with a radius of 100 meters with the printing cabin as the center. But it is enough for Jiang Sheng to grasp a lot of situations. First of all, Jiang Sheng's position is not above the surface, but below the surface. Moreover, the geological conditions of Noah are very special. Although it is below the surface, there are many closed small caves. There are relatively many caves around Jiang Sheng's birth cave. Some of these caves have a lot of oxygen, and some have high carbon dioxide or chlorine content. Jiang Sheng even saw a cave not far away filled with more than 90% oxygen, and the oxygen content was even increasing. Perhaps due to the existence of pressure, the decimal point of the oxygen content was only slightly jumping. Then there is the temperature. The Earth has a geothermal gradient, and there are also vertical temperature changes below the surface of Noah. At present, due to the limited detection range of Jiang Sheng, the temperature range that can be seen is limited. We only know that the area where Jiang Sheng is currently located is the most suitable temperature for human life, and the temperature change in the vertical direction is about 0.5 every 100 meters, which is not much different from the geothermal gradient. Material view can help Jiang Sheng see the composition of all the materials around him. This planet is mostly composed of silicate rocks. It is a proper Earth-like planet and has rich mineral resources. What's even more surprising is that there is natural water on this planet. In other words, there are 3 indispensable elements for an ideal colony on Noah: oxygen, water, and suitable temperature. Light view. In addition to Jiang Sheng's birthplace, which has light because of the huge light bulb on the top of the printing cabin, other caves also have light. Jiang Sheng doesn't know why, so he can only explore slowly. Bacteria view. Very important, but no abnormalities have been found so far. Finally, it is Jiang Sheng's own feelings. His body did not feel uncomfortable when jumping, which means that the gravity conditions of Noah and the Earth are basically the same. This also indirectly shows that the mass of Noah and the Earth is not much different. Jiang Sheng wrote down the important conditions that have been explored in his notebook. Earth-like. Oxygen and water exist. The temperature below the surface is suitable. Reverse. The surface temperature is lower. There are no deadly bacteria. The same gravity means the same mass. After sorting out these points, Jiang Sheng quickly tore the page of notebook paper into pieces, wrapped it with another ball of notebook paper, and put it in his school bag. Such caution may be a bit exaggerated, but Jiang Sheng has read some novels and animations about caution, and he will be more or less affected by the neurotic caution of the protagonist in them. After doing this, Jiang Sheng took a deep breath and relaxed. Noah's affairs are now a little secret that only belongs to him. What should he do next? Should he dig up all kinds of treasures in the other world like in the novel and make himself rich? Or should he print so-called clones and build a colony as envisioned by the Noah project? In any case, Jiang Sheng felt that his life would change dramatically because of Noah's appearance. In the next 2 days, Jiang Sheng never entered Noah again, but rented a house everywhere. The reason is very simple. The way to enter Noah is to think about traveling through time and walk through a door. If you walk through a door in front of other people and then suddenly disappear, Jiang Sheng feels that he will appear in the evening news in Beijing in a very short time and become a celebrity in the circle of friends across the country. Then he was put on the operating table of the medical school next door. More contact with Noah requires a completely private space. As a junior student, Jiang Sheng can rent a house outside. After 2 days of investigation and visits, Jiang Sheng finally found a residence that is relatively close to the school and has good conditions in all aspects. Brother, if you don't want to rent anymore, remember to tell me a week in advance. Okay, got it. Okay, then I'll leave first. Jiang Sheng sent the landlord away and then looked at the balance of his bank card: 252,475.21 yuan. Not much left, I have to spend it sparingly. After paying 4 months of rent in one go, Jiang Sheng instantly felt a sense of economic crisis. Jiang Sheng grew up in a single-parent family. His mother was a pianist and died of illness when Jiang Sheng was still a little old. His father Jiang Zhe was the chairman of the first commercial rocket company in China, so Jiang Sheng was strictly considered a rich second generation. But Jiang Sheng's family situation was special. Jiang Zhe was busy with work and didn't go home all year round. There was little communication between father and son, and they might only have the opportunity to appear at the same table once a month. Because Jiang Zhe was busy with work, Jiang Sheng's living expenses, since he was a child, were 12 yuan a year. This trained Jiang Sheng to be independent and have a strong sense of crisis. And 200,000 yuan a year during college, including tuition, living expenses and all other regular expenses, was the agreement between Jiang Sheng and Jiang Zhe. Although it is far more than the living expenses of ordinary college students, it is still far from the real rich second generation. And if it exceeds the cost, Jiang Zhe said that he will not be responsible. Seeing that the landlord has walked out of the building entrance in front of the window, Jiang Sheng turned off all the lights in the house and drew all the curtains. to isolate the light source as much as possible. Then he picked up his Huawei mobile phone, turned on the camera, and walked around the room. After searching carefully for a long time, Jiang Sheng was relieved when he did not find any suspicious places. It seems that there is no camera. Jiang Sheng does not distrust the landlord, but it is always right to be more careful when walking outside. After dealing with these, Jiang Sheng immediately took the various equipment he bought online 2 days ago to the house he rented. These packages are all from the same city and arrived yesterday, but Jiang Sheng has kept them in the dormitory and has not opened them. Now open the package, which contains miners' hats, protective clothing, and 32,000 lumen high-intensity flashlights. Because it was an underground cave, Jiang Sheng had few places to operate, and the things he needed were less than he had imagined. He didn't need to buy protective clothing, but he was afraid that the dust in the cave would stick to him, and it would be troublesome to change clothes, so he simply bought a protective clothing to wear. In addition to these necessities, there was also a baseball bat purchased from a nearby sporting goods store. This thing might not be useful, and Jiang Sheng really didn't want it to be used. Carrying these things with him, Jiang Sheng walked through the bedroom door and disappeared from the spot. The entire cave was only a dozen square meters of space. In fact, Jiang Sheng had already explored this little space on the first day. Now, Jiang Sheng took a strong flashlight and looked at the places where the light of the printing cabin could not reach. Except for stones, there was really nothing missing. As long as he entered Noah, various words appeared in his vision, and at this time there was a line of words on the left side of Jiang Sheng's vision, reminding Jiang Sheng what he should do now. Print a clone. When he came to the printing cabin, Jiang Sheng touched the edge of the printing cabin, and his mind moved slightly, and a few lines of words appeared in Jiang Sheng's mind. Consume 100 survival points and print a random clone. Printing. The edge of the printing chamber suddenly lit up, and a white light curtain filled the entire door. In the light curtain, Jiang Sheng saw a shadow in the shape of a big character gradually solidifying. After a few seconds, the light curtain dimmed, and a person slowly fell to the ground of the printing chamber. Chapter 3 Bly and Owen. The light curtain dissipated, and Jiang Sheng saw the appearance of the clone clearly. He had a short haircut, a small round face, brown skin, a medium build, and was short in height. He wore a rough orange and red sweater on his upper body, and black pants on his lower body. In general, whether it was his appearance or his clothes, this clone's whole body revealed one word. Rustic. 2 words. Rustic. Jiang Sheng was not a member of the Appearance Association, but with such clothes and appearance, it was really hard for people to think of any other adjectives. But putting aside the first impression, Jiang Sheng was surprised that this clone was so lifelike. From the nose to the eyes, and then to the body, it looked completely like a normal human. Just as Jiang Sheng was looking at this clone, the clone was also looking at Jiang Sheng with its head tilted, and its black pupils were staring at Jiang Sheng tightly, but there was no other movement. Jiang Sheng saw that the clone was quite honest, so he relaxed a little and began to circle around the clone to observe it further. But Jiang Sheng still held the baseball bat tightly in his hand. If the clone wanted to rebel, Jiang Sheng would swing the bat hard at the first time. Having seen many movies about cloned life forms rebelling against their creators, Jiang Sheng did not want to approach this unknown life form without any precautions. After turning around twice, Jiang Sheng discovered 2 interesting things. First of all, the body of the clone is basically no different from that of a human being on the surface. The only difference is that the clone has only 4 fingers on both hands. Jiang Sheng did not know whether this was a personal defect of the clone, or if it was originally designed this way. Then, the clone carried a gun-shaped machine the size of a school bag on his back. This thing came out of the printing cabin with the clone, and it would stick to the clone's back like a magnet, and no matter how hard Jiang Sheng tried, he could not take it off. After reading this, Jiang Sheng realized that an introduction about the clone had appeared on the right side of his field of vision. Resume name, Bly age. 1 cycle gender, unknown qualities, replicant, possessing the basic attributes of a replicant, country bumpkin, unable to perform research tasks, snoring, snoring when sleeping, stress response, destruction joy response, give someone a big hug. Bly has always wanted a leather jacket, but this wish has never been fulfilled. Skills. Strength. 3. Carrying and fighting ability, mining. 3. Ability to mine resources, construction. 0. Ability to build, operation. 0. Ability to operate machinery, medical. 0. Ability to treat, cooking. 0. Ability to make food, science. 0. Ability to research technology, creation. 0. Ability to create art, farming. 0. Ability to farm. In addition to these basic data, Jiang Sheng can even see Bly's physical condition at this moment. Life. 100 hundredths pressure. 5% bladder. 5% breathing, normal physical strength. 100% calories. 3415 cal. Body temperature. 37 degrees Celsius. Using the visual command system, Jiang Sheng looked at the clone named Bly from inside to outside. Not only did this clone look like a country bumpkin, but even his resume said he was a country bumpkin. And the gender in the resume, what does gender unknown mean? He is obviously a man. His chin and throat are all male secondary characteristics. How can his gender be unknown? The most important thing is the skills. Except for the pitiful 3 points of strength and digging, the others are all 0. Although Jiang Sheng doesn't know what the average value of these attributes should be, Jiang Sheng has determined that this clone is a complete idiot. He looks country bumpkin, and he is also a complete idiot inside. If the printing chamber is a capsule machine, then Jiang Sheng is very dissatisfied with the guy he has twisted out this time. At this time, Jiang Sheng looked at Bly with contempt, but Bly didn't see that Jiang Sheng didn't like him very much, and still looked at Jiang Sheng like a fool. I don't believe it. Jiang Sheng became more and more annoyed. Now there are still 200 survival points left, which means that he can still print 2 clones. Jiang Sheng decided to print another clone. The same operation sequence was followed. The screen in the printing chamber lit up again, and a clone walked out. This time, the clone looked much more pleasing to the eye, with thick beige curly hair, white skin, a normal face shape and body shape, and a rough green and yellow sweater and black pants. Other than that, the 4 fingers in the machine behind him were exactly the same as the first clone, Bly. The situation of this replicant is as follows. Resume. Name. Owen. Age. 1 cycle. Gender. Unknown. Qualities. Replicant. With basic attributes of replicants. Carriage Iva. Medical +5. Thin arms and legs. Strength -3. Stress response. Sweet mouth joy response. Graffiti on his own body. Owen likes exquisite things. He thinks it is a kind of enjoyment to appreciate exquisite things, such as his exquisite self. Skills. Strength -3. Carrying and fighting ability. Mining. 0. Ability to mine resources. Construction. 0. Ability to build. Operation. 0. Ability to operate machinery. Medical. 5. Ability to do medical treatment. Cooking. 1. Ability to make food. Science. 0. Ability to do scientific research. Creation. 3. Ability to create art. Farming. 0. Ability to farm. The rest of the physical state is exactly the same as Bly. Jiang Sheng just took a quick glance. Jiang Sheng was quite satisfied with the attributes of this replicant. At least he didn't look like a brainless type. He just complimented Bly. Now that there are 2 replicants, Jiang Sheng plans to command these 2 replicants to do some excavation work. Only by digging can Jiang Sheng obtain more resources, and only with more resources can he be qualified to talk about the future. Jiang Sheng user, material view, in the visual command system, to define an excavation range, and the clones Bly and Owen immediately started working. Bly and Owen raised the gun-shaped machine behind them, and aimed it at the range that Jiang Sheng wanted to dig, and then the sand and gravel on the cave wall were absorbed into the gun. Gradually, the sand and gravel on the wall were absorbed to an area of about 1 square meter. Bly and Owen pointed the gun at the ground again, and the muzzles of the 2 guns spit out a large and a small piece of soil respectively. After doing this, Bly and Owen did not stop. but continued to dig. In about 3 minutes, 1 cubic meter of sand and gravel turned into 2 soil blocks about 40 centimeters high. What kind of black technology is this? Where is the law of conservation of mass? Have you eaten it? As Bly and Owen dug, the cave where Jiang Sheng was located was gradually expanding. When Jiang Sheng finished his afternoon class and came back after dinner, the excavation work arranged by Jiang Sheng had been completed. The cave, which was originally about 3x7x4, has now expanded to 3x15x4. That is to say, Jiang Sheng's cave increased in volume by about 96 cubic meters, but in return, it was just full of dirt. The efficiency of the duplicant using this gun-shaped machine is also really terrible. It took 2 people less than an afternoon to dig these, which is as efficient as an excavator. And as long as the resources excavated are considered Jiang Sheng's property, Jiang Sheng now has a lot of resources. Resources: copper ore, 3150 kg gravel, 54.8 tons sand, 4524 kg coal, 210.5 kg cultivable soil, 14,781 kg seeds. 2. With the acquisition of various resources, Jiang Sheng also unlocked many basic technologies. Chapter 4: Production of guns, outhouses, and beds. Unlock base technology, unlock oxygen technology, unlock food technology, unlock power technology, unlock water pipe technology, unlock medical technology, unlock furniture technology, unlock platform technology. The dense text in the upper left corner of the field of vision indicates which technologies were unlocked during Jiang Sheng's absence. This also reminds Jiang Sheng of the unlocking conditions of these technologies. As long as the corresponding construction resources are collected, these basic technologies can be unlocked. In addition, Jiang Sheng also discovered the general principle of the replicants when performing excavation work. Although the excavation of replicants seems to reduce the quality and make the material disappear out of thin air, it actually does not. Suppose a cubic meter of sand and gravel is 1.6 tons before excavation. After being excavated by Bly and Owen, it becomes a soil block of about 30 cm3, but the actual mass is still 1.6 tons. In other words, the excavation of replicants is a process of compressing volume without compromising quality. Now there are videos of hydraulic presses crushing everything on the internet. That is, putting an object under the sledgehammer of the hydraulic press. Basically any seemingly incompressible material can be compressed very flat. Although the replica's gun is more like a process of absorption, decomposition and then reorganization in terms of implementation principle, its function is similar to that of a hydraulic press, and its efficiency and effect are far more than 10 times that of a hydraulic press. In other words, this gun-shaped device in the replica's hand is definitely a black technology. If humans can own and use this machine, Jiang Sheng believes that the course of human history will definitely be rewritten. Because it can greatly improve human productivity. Productivity is the ability to transform nature formed by the combination of people with labor capacity and means of production, and the most basic internal driving force for social development and progress is productivity. This definition learned in high school is the most suitable for interpreting the current situation. People with labor capacity are replicas, and the means of production are the gun in the hands of replicas and Noah. And transforming nature is what Jiang Sheng is doing now. If the tool in the replica's hand is a hoe, even if Jiang Sheng is given 100 million replicas at the beginning, Jiang Sheng will not be able to develop a colony at all. Because there is no other space to store the excavated soil, Jiang Sheng's activity area will always be a cave. But it is completely different with this black technology gun, which makes the development of underground colonies possible. No wonder a great man once said that technology is the primary productive force. If it is changed to black technology as the primary productive force, Jiang Sheng would feel more appropriate. Unfortunately, Jiang Sheng can't see any information about this gun, and can't even take down this gun to study it separately. He can only speculate the principle of this gun through the use process of the replicant. Jiang Sheng plans to give this gun a name, write it down, and study it slowly later. Let's call it a production gun. Jiang Sheng admitted that he had no talent in naming, but the word production did summarize the characteristics of this gun, which is super productivity. Next, Jiang Sheng began to check the technological products he unlocked one by one. These technologies are very basic, and you can know their approximate uses just by looking at the name. Among the many technologies, Jiang Sheng plans to build technology that can meet the survival needs of replicants first, because replicants are productivity, and there is a future only with productivity, so the needs of replicants are above all else. What do replicants need now? This requires reference to the physical data of replicants. In the physical data of replicants, one item has now become a striking orange font. Bly bladder. 65%. Owen bladder. 63%. This physical data shows that the clone's body needs to excrete, but it is not known whether the clone will have the skill of holding urine. But even if they can hold urine, the bladder should not be able to withstand it for too long, and then all kinds of dirty things will gush out. Jiang Sheng, who majored in environmental science, knows that sewage discharge is a big deal, even higher than other things at the moment, because it is easy to create pollution, but sewage discharge is quite troublesome, especially in this confined space. The natural environment's ability to purify pollution is infinitely close to zero. If the excrement cannot be properly handled, both bacteria and odor will cause big trouble. This is Jiang Sheng's birthplace, and Jiang Sheng does not want his birthplace to smell like a cesspool. So the construction of toilets is the first thing to bear the brunt. After a careful search, Jiang Sheng found a technology called outdoor toilets in the water pipe technology. It takes 200 kilograms of sand and gravel to build an outdoor toilet. Now Jiang Sheng has dozens of tons of sand and gravel, which is simply inexhaustible. Jiang Sheng picked a place far away from the printing chamber, and then issued a construction order to the replicants, and Owen ran over to build an outdoor toilet. Owen raised the production gun, first absorbed a clod of soil on the ground, and then the clod of soil turned into fine sand, and was slowly spit out in a certain outline. The working principle of the production gun is absorption, decomposition, and reorganization, so Jiang Sheng was no longer surprised that it could do such a thing. Jiang Sheng did not let Bly on the other side idle. The replicants need sleep, and if they sleep, they definitely need a bed. The only thing that can be built under furniture technology is a bed, so Jiang Sheng asked Bly to build 2 beds next to the printing chamber. Half an hour later, an outdoor toilet and 2 beds were built one after another. Outdoor toilet. Provide a place for replicants to relieve themselves, without pipes, but contaminated soil needs to be cleaned regularly. Requirement. 6.7 kilograms of soil/time effect. 6.7 kilograms of contaminated soil/time, 200,000 germ/time material. 200 kilograms of sand and gravel. Oh my god. They have to eat together. Do they have to excrete together? The outdoor toilet is very simple in shape, with a half-person high square fence and a shed roof. It looks even simpler than a wild toilet. As long as Jiang Sheng stands next to the fence, he can see what is inside. Excretion is a relatively private matter. The structure of this toilet does not give people enough private space and sense of security. And from the introduction, the principle of this outdoor toilet is to bury the excrement with soil, and in fact the pollution still exists. It's just that the smell is not easy to drift out. But what's the difference between this and going to the toilet in the wild? There is no way. Now I only have basic technology, so I can only accept such a toilet. The 2 beds on the other side have also been built, and Jiang Sheng also ran over to check the information of the beds. Bed. Provide a place for the replicant to sleep. When it is time to rest, the replicant will automatically return to the bed to rest. Requirements. Each clone/bed effect, plus 100% stamina/cycle, plus 25 life/cycle materials. 200 kilogram gravel, thanks to the creator for giving them a bed. Without a bed, they would have backaches from sleeping on the ground. The bed built by the clones is as simple as the outdoor toilet. It looks like a bedboard without any bedding on it. It is a hard bedboard made of gravel. In terms of comfort, what is the difference between this bed and sleeping on the ground? But Bly and Owen didn't seem to complain. When Jiang Sheng's watch showed 10 o'clock in the evening, Bly and Owen returned to their beds, as if they had pre-installed programs. Chapter 5 Colony Report and Oxygen Caves. The next day, as soon as Jiang Sheng opened his eyes, he received a report from Noah. Cycle 1 colony report. Details of clones. Calories produced. 0 cal consumption. 4000 cal net value, minus 4000 cal stress increase. 12% reduction. 0% net value. 12% disease status, no sick clones. Time details, working time. 36%. Walking time. 2% idle time. 28% base details, oxygen output. 0 kilograms, consumption. 1.5 kilograms net value, minus 1.5 kilograms comprehensive evaluation, survival points plus 6. Jiang Sheng glanced at the time. The statistical time of the colony report is 6 o'clock in the morning. That is, a colony report will be provided to Jiang Sheng at 6 o'clock every morning, and the 24 hours from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock the next morning is considered a cycle. This is the same as the daily refresh time of many games. Although the colony report only presents what happened yesterday in a data-based way, Jiang Sheng still analyzed a lot of problems from it. The first is food. The food for the clones now is the nutrition bars initially delivered in the ration box. Each clone consumes 2000 cal of food per day, which is considered normal for humans. Jiang Sheng cannot operate the clones to save food by not eating or eating less, which means that the food is enough to support 7 days. But Jiang Sheng has not found a source of food yet. Or maybe the clones have been idle for too long, which is because there are many things to get familiar with on the first day, and Jiang Sheng neglected to arrange tasks. Is it okay to have no work to do during working hours? Such situations should be avoided as much as possible in the future. The second is oxygen. Oxygen is similar to food, and both are in the process of consuming initial resources. The volume of the initial cave is 3x7x4, which is 84 cubic meters. The gas situation in the initial cave is similar to that of the Earth's air, which means that the oxygen content can be calculated using the Earth's data. 84x1.293x 21% equals 22.8085 kilograms. 22.80852-1.5 84x1.293 equals 0.196 1893 71 34 19.6%. The oxygen content dropped to 19.6% in one day is just an ideal situation. In fact, Jiang Sheng also excavated more space yesterday, which will make the oxygen in the cave even thinner. As we all know, as long as the oxygen content drops to 15%, the human body will have adverse reactions, and the replicants should be no exception. Finally, there are survival points. Survival points are used to print replicants, and the way to obtain survival points is that the survival points of the previous day will be given at the end of the daily colony report. Moreover, the number of survival points per day is obtained by using a certain evaluation mechanism, but the evaluation mechanism is unknown. In general, Jiang Sheng's top priority is to solve the problem of hypoxia in replicants. Normal humans can survive for a week without food, but hypoxia can kill people in minutes. Thinking of this, Jiang Sheng quickly put on his clothes and went to Noah. Arriving at Noah and seeing the status of the replicants, Jiang Sheng has seen various debuffs on them. Bly, difficult breathing, poor sleep quality. Owen, difficult breathing, extremely poor sleep quality and extremely poor sleep quality. Why? Never mind. Now even Jiang Sheng himself feels that breathing is a bit difficult, as if he has severe rhinitis. It seems that the colony report did not take Jiang Sheng's own oxygen consumption into account, causing the colony's hypoxia problem to be more serious than expected. Solving the hypoxia problem is a top priority. After carefully checking everything that is known so far, Jiang Sheng thought of two solutions. One solution is that there is a cave 25 meters away from the birthplace in a straight line. This cave has more than 90% of oxygen. If this cave can be connected to his own cave, the oxygen situation can be quickly alleviated. The advantage of this solution is that it can quickly alleviate the hypoxia of the colony, but the side effect is that after the two caves are connected, the cave volume will expand too much. If hypoxia occurs again, it will be even more difficult to make up. Another solution is to create an oxygen diffuser in oxygen technology. At present, Jiang Sheng has not obtained the algae resources needed to maintain the operation of the oxygen diffuser, so he cannot make an oxygen diffuser. At a straight line distance of 75 meters from the birthplace cave, Jiang Sheng saw a large amount of algae there. Although Jiang Sheng did not know why the cave had algae, he had to reach there if he wanted to make an oxygen diffuser. One is fast, the other is slow. One is a temporary solution, and the other is long-term peace. How to choose? Jiang Sheng thought for a while, and chose a plan to dig to the oxygen cave first. The cave with extremely high oxygen content is relatively close to the birthplace. On the one hand, the distance to be dug is short, and on the other hand, there is less space for digging. Now the oxygen is a little thin. Jiang Sheng must choose the safest method. After determining the plan, Jiang Sheng immediately used the material view to plan a shortest digging route. Bly and Owen started working, and Jiang Sheng also had to go to class, so he quickly withdrew from Noah. By noon, Jiang Sheng estimated that the excavation work should have been completed, but he did not know what Noah was like now. The visual command system is very inconvenient in this regard. Noah's real-time situation cannot be understood on Earth. Jiang Sheng did not enter Noah directly, but went to the nearest hospital to buy a few medical portable oxygen tanks. This kind of thing is generally used by pregnant women, because pregnant women need twice as much oxygen as ordinary people. So when Jiang Sheng went to buy it, he could not avoid being glared at by the young nurse in the hospital. Young people nowadays really have no sense of responsibility. They want children at a young age, but in the end, they still let their parents raise them. That's right, just because you are handsome, you can do whatever you want. Jiang Sheng shook his head, but smiled with relief when checking out. Grandpa is saved now. This child is really filial. He is handsome and filial. If I were a girl, I would marry him. Jiang Sheng returned to the rental house with 10 portable oxygen tanks. He had the confidence to enter Noah to check the oxygen situation. He held the newly bought portable oxygen tanks in one hand, one of which was already installed. As long as Jiang Sheng noticed that Noah was seriously lacking oxygen, he would immediately put the mask on his face. However, the hypoxia he imagined did not happen. Jiang Sheng took a breath of the air in Noah, which was very smooth and without any abnormality. After looking at the gas view, Jiang Sheng found that the cave full of oxygen had been connected to the cave where he was born, and the air between the two caves had begun to circulate. Jiang Sheng relaxed, and it seemed that the hypoxia crisis had temporarily passed. Now the oxygen content in the cave has begun to gradually rise. Although the speed is very slow, it will not suffocate people to death. And Bly and Owen are breathing pure oxygen frantically in the oxygen cave. When the clone is idle, it will take the initiative to find a place that makes it more comfortable. When the clone is separated from Jiang Sheng by a certain distance, Jiang Sheng can turn on the clone vision. As the name suggests, Jiang Sheng can see the clone's vision. First, using Bly's vision, Jiang Sheng saw an ordinary cave, which was no different from the cave where he was born. Then switching to Owen's vision, Jiang Sheng saw a pool of green substance on the wall. Gas view shows that the oxygen content is the highest at this location, and it is still increasing. In the small words next to the vision, Jiang Sheng knew the name of this pool of green substance. Oxygen stone. Chapter 6 Oxygen stone and delicious hatches eggs. Material view can see the material composition of the space within a radius of 100 meters, including gas. So, material view is the view with the most comprehensive information. Therefore, when planning the route for the replica to dig, Jiang Sheng used material view. But this view is not omnipotent. It also has weaknesses. The material composition seen in material view is all approximate composition in square meters. For example, assuming that there are more than 50% sand and gravel in a square meter of space, then the entire square meter will be displayed as sand and gravel in material view. The same is true for air in material view. If most of the air in each square meter is nitrogen or oxygen, material view will show that it is all nitrogen or oxygen. In other words, material view cannot see some smaller buried objects and attachments on the rock wall, or small objects that are moving. And this oxygen stone is like this. It is in a state of attachment on the rock wall. If Jiang Sheng does not see it with his own eyes, he cannot see its existence. Of course, Jiang Sheng did not see it with his own eyes, but saw it through the vision of the replica. But, your eyes are my eyes. Oxygen stone, I-2O3 is a compound that slowly releases breathable oxygen. This compound is highly active and intense exercise will accelerate its consumption. Resource type, consumable ore. Melting point, 1409.9 hardness. Soft iris iridium. Atomic sequence 77. A member of the platinum group. In Jiang Sheng's impression, it seems that there is no substance called I-2O3. At least Jiang Sheng has never heard of such a property. Moreover, this oxygen cave has more than 90% of oxygen, which should be due to the consumption of oxygen stones. Is this a new substance? Jiang Sheng hurried back to his rental house and checked the internet. No literature or information mentioned the substance I-2O3. I didn't expect to discover a new substance so soon. Although human civilization has developed rapidly in the past few hundred years, it has established relatively complete physical rules and even thinks that it has penetrated all the natural laws in this world. But in fact, every world-renowned discovery of mankind is limited to the earth itself. Just like a toddler finding a grass or a bunch of flowers at the door of his house. As long as you go a little beyond the fence of your home, you will find an unprecedented world. For example, in the cave, where Jiang Sheng is now, there are many things that cannot be explained by modern civilization. Back to Noah again, Jiang Sheng has taken a set of test tubes from the school laboratory. Since it is an unprecedented new substance, Jiang Sheng must collect it, and cannot let it slowly consume its mass in the air. Jiang Sheng first recalled Bly and Owen, and then planned the route, letting them dig towards another cave with algae first. Then Jiang Sheng prepared to go to the oxygen cave in person, to collect oxygen stone samples. Wearing protective clothing, wearing a miner's hat, and carefully pinning the test tube to his waist, Jiang Sheng was ready to set off. Because the air pressure in the oxygen cave was relatively high before, once it was opened, oxygen would rush into the birthplace cave frantically, so Jiang Sheng did not have breathing difficulties along the way. But what Jiang Sheng did not expect was that it was actually the rugged route and darkness that caused him great difficulties. The excavation route chosen by Jiang Sheng was a straight line, and there was a height difference between the oxygen cave and the birthplace cave, so Jiang Sheng's forward route was actually a diagonal line. In addition, the replicant's excavation is based on cubic meters as the basic excavation unit, so each step is a full meter high. That is, Jiang Sheng needs to keep climbing the 1 meter high steps to reach the oxygen cave. And there is darkness. There is no light along the way. Because Jiang Sheng needs to climb with both hands, he did not bring a brighter 32,000 lumen strong light flashlight, and could only use the limited light on the miner's hat. This shows that, although the replicants are called replicants, their physical advantages are far stronger than humans. It took only more than a minute for Bly and Owen to get from the oxygen cave to the birthplace cave, but it took Jiang Sheng 2.5 minutes. In addition, in the replicant's vision, Jiang Sheng clearly saw that the entire oxygen cave was dim, but not to the point of being unable to see anything. But when it was Jiang Sheng's turn to see it, the entire oxygen cave was pitch black, and it was pitch dark when the light on the miner's hat was turned off. And the light view also clearly told that there was no visible light in this cave. That is, the replicant's vision has extremely strong night vision, and can see things clearly even in complete darkness. In short, there are more secrets in the clone, and Jiang Sheng plans to explore them slowly in the future. When he came to the oxygen cave, Jiang Sheng went straight to the point, and came to the stone wall with oxygen stones attached. He used a blade to gently scrape the oxygen stones into the test tube. Jiang Sheng collected 4 test tubes of oxygen stones before he decided to let go. The thickness of these oxygen stones attached to the rocks was only 2 millimeters. After Jiang Sheng collected them, a large piece was directly lost. But Jiang Sheng didn't feel sorry. After all, oxygen is common, but oxygen stones are not. Once these things are used up, it will be difficult to actively find them. Jiang Sheng sealed the mouth of the test tube, and then used the light of the miner's hat to look for other new things in the oxygen cave. Stones, soil blocks, stones, soil blocks, and other things besides stones, round stones, and so on. Just when Jiang Sheng was about to turn around and go back, he saw a round purple stone lying in the gravel pile in the corner. This stone is purple and lavender, with a more natural pattern on it. This is Jiang Sheng reached out and touched it, and immediately learned the information about this thing. Eggs of delicious hatchie, eggs of a magical underground creature. Their personalities are exactly the same as their names. Wildness. 100% hatches cannot distinguish between their own eggs and excrement, so they always lose their eggs, but this does not mean that they do not love their children. Delicious. Good with 3 tones, or good with 4 tones? Jiang Sheng picked up the egg with some confusion, and looked at it carefully. It is slightly smaller than an ostrich egg, and the weight is slightly heavier, but I don't know what can be hatched from this thing. Judging from the hatching rate, it should be a warm egg. After thinking about it, Jiang Sheng decided to take the egg back to his birthplace. Exploring this place is what he must do. In addition to the environment, the creatures here must also be explored. Since this creature called Delicious Hatchie lays eggs in a cave, so close to him, it means that he can meet it at any time in the future. In order to avoid being in a hurry in the future, it is better to raise one now. If it is a creature that threatens you, it should be easier to deal with it when it is young. With this idea in mind, Jiang Sheng took the Delicious Hatchie's eggs back to his birthplace. Chapter 7 Entering the Electric Age. Cycle 2. Colony Report. Details of clones. Calories produced. 0 cal consumption. 4000 cal net value, minus 4000 cal stress increase. 12% decrease. 0% net value. 12% disease status, no sick clones. Time details, working time. 45%. Walking time. 12% idle time. 9% base details, oxygen output. 0 kilograms, consumption. 1.5 kilograms net value, minus 1.5 kilograms overall evaluation. Survival points plus 8. Although the colony still has various problems, today will be a day full of hope. According to the excavation progress, Bly and Owen will be able to excavate the cave with algae before noon today. In the material view, the cave with algae is a relatively large cave, and even a part of it has exceeded the visual range of 100 meters. The algae is mainly concentrated under the ground of that cave. In addition, the light view also shows that the cave has light. This is what confuses Jiang Sheng. Why can other caves also have light? These doubts will be solved at noon today. At noon, Jiang Sheng returned to his rental house and brought the cage he had just bought at a nearby pet store into Noah. This is a dog cage for medium-sized dogs. Jiang Sheng specially bought the most expensive one to lock the eggs of the delicious hatch in it. Hatches eggs. Hatching rate 3.14%. 3.1% hatched in one night. Jiang Sheng will be able to see what will hatch out of it in about 10 days. On the other side, Bly and Owen have opened up the road between the algae cave and the birthplace cave, and are standing next to the printing cabin, and blowing air leisurely. It is worth noting that the debuffs on Bly and Owen have now become 1. Bly, poor sleep quality. Owen, extremely poor sleep quality. Without yesterday's breathing problems, the two replicants are living much more comfortably here than yesterday. Thinking about it, Jiang Sheng remembered that the number of survival points reported by the colony this morning seemed to be 2 more than yesterday. 2 less debuffs, 2 more survival points. In other words, the survival points obtained every day are closely related to the number of clones and the debuffs on the clones. If you can solve the problem of sleep quality for Bly and Owen, you can get 10 survival points every day. Back to the present, Jiang Sheng is fully armed and ready to set out to explore the algae cave. The route along the way is still a bit rugged, and the oxygen content on the road is relatively low. In order to prevent himself from lack of oxygen, Jiang Sheng not only brought the equipment for exploring the oxygen cave before, but also brought a portable oxygen tank. Nothing too special happened along the way, and Jiang Sheng came to the algae cave. Entering the algae cave, Jiang Sheng was deeply shocked by the scene in front of him. This algae cave looks like a botanical garden. There is occasionally some exposed soil on the green grass, and some unknown plants grow on the grass. Jiang Sheng saw all this without the help of any mechanical lights, but with the help of the light bulb flying in the cave. Luminous insects. Luminous insects can emit soft light to attract more of their kind to accompany them. Food, fruits of plants, phosphate rock brightness. 1800 lux life. 5/5 wildness. 100%. Most of the time it will fly freely in the air, rarely landing, except for eating. This is an animal. Although Jiang Sheng had picked up an egg before and had confirmed that Noah had its own ecosystem, this was the first time he had seen a living animal. This glowworm looks like a firefly, but the light it emits is much brighter than a firefly, and its body size is also much larger than a firefly. It's like a light bulb flying in the sky. Because the brightness of the glowworm's body is too high, Jiang Sheng can't see the details of the glowworm, so he can only describe it this way. Then he turned to the various plants on the ground, and Jiang Sheng got the information about these plants by touching them with his hand. The green fluffy and sticky things on the ground are all algae. In addition, there are several other plants, such as rice trees, tempting thorns, buried mud roots, and thorn flowers. These plants are all in the seedling stage, and they all look like seedlings of plants, and there is no difference. Although they can survive here, the lack of nutrition is not suitable for them to continue to grow. After roughly exploring the environment here, Jiang Sheng called Bly and Owen over and began to dig the algae here. Jiang Sheng currently only needs the algae here. In order to avoid damaging the small ecology in this cave, Jiang Sheng chose to dig around those special plants. Resources algae. 10 kilograms. After digging for less than 10 minutes, Jiang Sheng obtained a large amount of algae, and the oxygen diffuser could also be manufactured. Jiang Sheng asked Bly and Owen to transport the 10 kilograms of algae back to the birthplace first, and ended the exploration of the algae cave. Strengthening the construction of the birthplace cave is the top priority. After returning to the birthplace, Jiang Sheng immediately directed Bly and Owen to build a new building. Human power generator. Convert mechanical energy into electrical energy. Requirement. Duplicate operation effect. Plus 400 W power. 1000 J/secretary heat material. 200 kilograms copper. It feels like they are having fun running on it. Like the power is just an added bonus. Battery. Stores the power generated by the generator and provides power to various buildings, but the power in it will drain over time. Requirement. Connect to the generator effect. Power capacity 1000 kJ. Power leakage 100 J/cycle. Heat 1.25 kJ/secretary material. 200 kilograms copper. The battery can store the excess power produced by the generator first, but the battery will also leak because they forgot to install the energy ring. Oxygen diffuser. Converts a large amount of algae into oxygen and automatically shuts down when the air conditions in the area reach normal values. Requirement. 15 G/secretary of algae, 120 W of power. Effect. 5 G/s of oxygen, 1.5 kJ/s of heat material. 200 kilograms of copper ore. The oxygen diffuser consumes algae very quickly, but the oxygen production effect is extremely high. In appearance, the oxygen diffuser looks like a phonograph, with a huge speaker on the upper body and the base of a water dispenser on the lower body. The replicants will use the production gun to add algae to it. Its consumption of algae is really scary. If the oxygen diffuser is turned on for a whole day, all the algae that Jiang Sheng has now can be consumed in one day. Although there are still a lot of algae underground in the algae cave, Jiang Sheng only dug a part of the surface, but it will definitely not last too long if it continues to consume like this. The human generator looks like a flywheel for hamsters, but this flywheel is very large and people can run in it. The shape of the battery is like a cylinder with a heatsink on the outside and various interfaces on the top of the cylinder, which does not seem to meet the specifications of the wire interface on Earth. Then command the replicants to connect these three buildings in series with wires to form a simple power network, and at the same time Jiang Sheng unlocked a new view. Power view. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. Isn't this guanine soil? Electricity view. Can see all the circuits in the colony and the circuit operation status. It is more convenient to command the clones to build circuits than ordinary views. The circuits in the colony are very simple now. In summary, it is a 3-point straight line. Human generator, battery, oxygen diffuser. But it does not mean that there is electricity when the circuit is formed. Someone needs to step on the human generator to run the wheel to have electricity. This job has been undertaken by Owen. The moment the human generator was built, Owen stepped on the generator, just like a hamster running in a flywheel. Owen's running speed in the flywheel also seemed to be very fast. After running for less than a minute, the battery and oxygen diffuser started working. The battery information showed that electricity was flowing into it, and the other part of the electricity was supplied to the oxygen diffuser. The large speaker on the oxygen diffuser is the outlet for diffusing oxygen. Although Jiang Sheng cannot see the oxygen, as long as he puts his head close, he can feel the fresh oxygen with the smell of soil gushing out of it. Jiang Sheng calculated that if the human generator runs at full power and does not supply other electrical appliances, the clone can charge the battery by running continuously for about 40 minutes. The maximum power of the human powered generator is similar to that of ordinary human powered generators on Earth. But if this type of generator is to run at the highest power, the manpower inside must be continuously supplied, and it cannot be at a jogging speed. This is difficult for ordinary people, but it does not seem to be difficult for clones with super physical strength. 10 minutes have passed, and Owen is still running on the rollers with a relaxed look. Now Jiang Sheng has not carefully calculated the physical strength of the clones, but Jiang Sheng has already felt that the physical strength of the clones will be far beyond imagination. Although it is not at the level of a Superman, all kinds of records on the limits of human physical strength on Earth should be child's play for clones. For example, when the clones use the production gun to dig, they will store 1 cubic meter of sand and gravel in the production gun. During this period, the clones have been holding the production gun. That is, the clones can easily carry 1 cubic meter of sand and gravel or heavier materials, 1.6 tons of arm strength. Jiang Sheng felt sorry for his initial idea of using an ordinary wooden baseball bat to fight against the clones. If the clones were conscious of rebelling, it would be easier for them to strangle Jiang Sheng than to strangle a stink bug. Fortunately, Jiang Sheng could command them, and this power could be used for his own benefit, so there was no need to panic. Not only did he not panic, he also wanted to increase his position. An hour later, the oxygen diffuser had stopped working, and the battery was fully charged. This battery is slightly larger than a smaller gas pipe, but the amount of electricity it can store is really pitifully small, and the leakage is serious. So Jiang Sheng does not plan to build more batteries to store electricity. Now that the oxygen problem has been solved, Jiang Sheng is going to look for a water source. There is a water source in a cave 12 meters away from the printing cabin. This cave is almost entirely filled with water, and the location of this cave is just below the algae cave. Because the distance is short, the excavation work was completed in about an hour. This cave is like a natural underground reservoir, which stores a lot of water. With water resources, Jiang Sheng naturally wants to use them. First, let the clones build a platform with bricks next to the reservoir, and then build a water pressure pump on the platform. Bricks, the most basic building material, which can be used to build solid walls and floors. Effect, running effect plus 25% materials. 200 kilograms of gravel. The surface is flat and solid, and they will feel comfortable stepping on it. Hand pump allows the clones to use this liquid. Effect, the hand pump allows the clones to pump liquids. Materials. 400 kilograms of gravel. Without a water source to build a hand pump, they will not use it anyway. Bricks are one of the basic technology. The technology here is used for base construction, which can make the cave look like a base. In fact, Jiang Sheng had noticed their existence a long time ago, but Jiang Sheng wanted to solve the survival problem of the clones first, so he never used the technology here. Now that a platform has been built using bricks, Jiang Sheng feels really good. The ground has become much flatter, and it looks like the cement floor of a rural home. Although there is still room for improvement, it is at least much better than the original ground. The hand pump belongs to plumbing technology. As for the appearance of the hand pump, it looks like the hand pump used in remote areas, but the position of the water outlet is very different from the standard on Earth. After the hand pump was built, it was as if it was marked here. The amount of water resources here was immediately recorded in Jiang Sheng's resources. Resources water. 172.8 tons. Jiang Sheng stood on the edge of the platform built with bricks. Although the water in the reservoir was very clear, it was extremely deep inside, and the 32,000 lumen flashlight could not illuminate anything. Will there be some kind of animal here? At present, Jiang Sheng has discovered two animals. One is a glowworm and the other is the egg of the delicious hatch. One of these two lives in the air, and the other should be on the ground. Now there is a reservoir here. If there is some kind of aquatic animal in Noah, it is very likely to live here. In Jiang Sheng's view, this is the largest reservoir within the range of the fog of war that has been revealed. There is water in some other places, but it can only be called a pool of water or some small underground runoff. Generally, animals will look for a wider living space, especially underground where resources are scarce. This natural reservoir has a large volume of 12x5x3, which is definitely an ideal place for aquatic animals to live. So Jiang Sheng feels that there must be some kind of animal here, but Jiang Sheng can't see it now. But now is not the time to think about these, because with the acquisition of water resources, Jiang Sheng can build new technology buildings. Currently, there is a buildable building under food technology called food compressor. Food compressor use common raw materials to make food and can only make food in the food formula. Requirements: 240 watts of electricity, clone operation. Effect: produce food in the food formula, 2.5 kilojoules/second of heat materials. 400 kilograms of copper ore. They love and hate this machine. Finally encountered food. Jiang Sheng still has some expectations for the technology of food. After all, food is the first necessity of the people. Jiang Sheng really wants to know what other things the clones will eat besides the nutrition bars given at the beginning. Back to the base, Jiang Sheng began to arrange Owen to build a food compressor. More than half an hour later, Owen finally completed the construction of the food compressor. This is a building that looks like a red wine bottle opener or like a metal gate with a huge metal cube hanging in the middle of the door. The production of this machine, like the oxygen diffuser, requires electricity, and Jiang Sheng has not connected the wires to it yet. Jiang Sheng immediately checked the food formula of this food compressor to see what kind of food it can make. Mud cake, a kind of food. Recipe: 75 kilograms of soil, 75 kilograms of water. Effect: 800 cal. Quality: very disgusting. It can fill the stomach, but if they eat this kind of food for a long time, they will collapse. Jiang Sheng was a little confused when he saw the formula for the first time. Isn't this guanine soil? Chapter 9 has new discoveries. The whole formula of mud cake is to mix soil and water in a ratio of 1:1. Here, it has a nice name, but on Earth, this thing is called guanine soil. According to common sense, this thing cannot provide any energy to the human body, but can only provide a sense of fullness. But in Noah, it can provide 800 cal of energy. Now, Jiang Sheng has 172.8 tons of water and 21,480 kilograms of soil. If Jiang Sheng wants, he can power up the food compressor to produce a lot of mud cakes. In this way, Jiang Sheng will not have to worry about food for a long time. But Jiang Sheng does not intend to do so. So far, one of the physical indicators of clones that Jiang Sheng has not understood is stress. There are many sources of stress for humans, and Jiang Sheng has not received any explanation about where the stress of clones comes from. But the stress of clones is indeed increasing every day. At present Bly's stress is 10%, and Owen's stress is 14%. But after seeing the food introduction of mud cake, Jiang Sheng guessed that food may be part of the source of stress for clones. The food sent in the ration box at the beginning is nutrition bars, and the quality of the food is disgusting. The quality of this slime cake is very disgusting, obviously inferior to nutrition bars. Since there is a setting for food quality, this setting will definitely work on the clones. So Jiang Sheng plans to try to make the clones eat less of this kind of food with very low quality. But if there is still no better food source in the next period of time, the slime cake can only be used as food. Out of personal curiosity, Jiang Sheng still connected the wires to the food compressor and asked the clone to make a slime cake first. The process of making food is relatively procedural. First, Owen sucked up some mud blocks on the ground with a production gun and added it to the metal block in the middle of the food compressor, while Bly ran to the reservoir to bring enough water to make a slime cake. After putting both things into the food compressor, Owen operated the food compressor to start making slime cakes. Although the food compressor needs to be operated by the clone during use, Owen actually just squatted next to the food compressor, touching the operating lever on the edge column of the food compressor with one hand and staring at the metal block in the middle. The roar of the food compressor lasted for about 10 minutes, and the food inside finally came out. A piece of green on top and yellow on the bottom slowly came out from the outlet under the metal block like squeezing toothpaste. The moment this thing left the outlet of the metal block and fell to the ground, Jiang Sheng immediately caught it with his hands wearing rubber gloves. Bly and Owen watched Jiang Sheng snatch the food in their eyes. There seemed to be some disappointment in their eyes and some expectation at the same time, but the two clones did not make any moves to snatch it. The clones only need to eat one meal a day, which is breakfast. They will eat all the food they need for the whole day in one meal in the morning. Fortunately, it is not their eating time now, otherwise Jiang Sheng took their food under their noses, and no one knows what they will do. Jiang Sheng weighed the mud cake in his hand, and felt a little heavy. It was half green and half yellow, and there was a lot of water on the surface. If you don't know its ingredients, it looks like a matcha cake that has been soaked in water for a long time, and has been swollen. Want to taste it? Jiang Sheng had the idea of tasting it, but seeing the disgusting appearance, Jiang Sheng didn't want to eat it. The most important thing is that the ingredients of the slime cake are soil and water. Although there is no abnormality in the raw materials in the bacteria view, the finished slime cake shows 1000 food poisoning bacteria. In the end, Jiang Sheng put the slime cake into the ration box as rations for Bly and Owen. It seems that the law of true fragrance does not always apply. The course schedule of Jiang Sheng University is not too full. The busiest day of the week is Wednesday. The classes at other times add up to only half a day, and there are double holidays on Saturdays and Sundays. But here, if you don't want to be a salted fish, you can have countless reasons and activities to arrange your daily life full. However, Jiang Sheng happens to be a salted fish. He has never signed up for any clubs, has never participated in any science and technology competitions, is not very keen on dating or studying, and even the games that teenagers are popular with are just general hobbies. Jiang Sheng is such a character. He only tastes everything and never invests more time in in-depth research. Entering the third year, the most discussed topic around Jiang Sheng is obviously the postgraduate entrance examination. Especially for the major of environmental science, the employment prospects of this major are not very good. If you want to further change your fate, you can only take the postgraduate entrance examination. On the first day of school this semester, the 4 people in Jiang Sheng's dormitory expressed their future ideas to each other. I declare that I will take the postgraduate entrance examination. I will take the postgraduate entrance examination too. Me too. Come on, you can do it. You are the best. Jiang Sheng, don't you want to take the postgraduate entrance examination? I don't want to. The other 3 people in the dormitory tried their best to persuade Jiang Sheng, saying that the future employment of environmental science majors is not good, but still failed to convince Jiang Sheng. In fact, if they knew what Jiang Sheng's father did, they would not persuade Jiang Sheng anymore, but would just quietly return to their study desks to study. However, since the 4 people in the dormitory have determined their future aspirations, the dormitory has been divided into 2 factions to take action. One faction is the other 3, working hard for the postgraduate entrance examination. The other faction is Jiang Sheng himself, continuing to be a salted fish. It's not that the other 3 people isolated Jiang Sheng, but Jiang Sheng's schedule is indeed very loose, like a salted fish. If they follow Jiang Sheng's schedule, they will become a salted fish sooner or later. Jiang Sheng also understands that everyone has different ideals, and he doesn't want to disturb them. Just after the evening class that day, when Jiang Sheng just walked out of the environment building, someone suddenly patted him on the back. Looking back, it turned out to be his roommate Bly and Owen. Hey, why don't you go back to the dormitory to sleep recently? Do you have a girlfriend? Jiang Sheng naturally couldn't tell him what he had encountered recently and could only say vaguely, no, something happened at home recently. Jiang Sheng's home is in Beijing, less than an hour's drive from Beijing University. This is no secret in Jiang Sheng's dormitory. Oh, I thought you changed your mind and wanted to take the postgraduate entrance examination and you are studying secretly. Haha, Jiang Sheng could only laugh awkwardly at Bly and Owen's ridicule. By the way, the University Alliance has recently issued a new rule requiring every student to have club activities experience during college in order to graduate. Did you know about this? When did it happen? This matter is a huge blow to Jiang Sheng now, because joining a club is obviously shortening the time he spends in OA. It's the file in the class group last week. Didn't you see it? No. Okay, you should join the club as soon as possible while the club is still recruiting people. As he said, Bly and Owen put his arm on Jiang Sheng's shoulder and the two of them walked side by side on a tree-lined avenue like good brothers. A new gene blueprint has been detected and is being added to the gene library. Addition completed. Jiang Sheng's pupils suddenly shrank. There is a new discovery. Chapter 10, a new genetic blueprint. The voice just now came from Jiang Sheng's mind. At the same time, the words, view new genetic blueprint, appeared next to Jiang Sheng's vision. With a thought, Jiang Sheng saw the contents inside. Resume name, Bly and Owen, age 79, 42 cycles, gender, male, traits, dexterity, construction +3, operation +3, the early bird catches the worm, all skills +2 within 1/12 cycle after getting up, pacifist, unable to complete combat work, stress reaction, laziness, joy reaction, joy. Bly and Owen is very obsessed with models. If his personal space is filled with models, he will be very happy. Skill strength 0. Carrying and combat capabilities, mining. 0. Ability to mine resources, construction. 3. Ability to build, operation. 3. Ability to operate machinery, medical. 0. Ability to provide medical treatment, cooking. 0. Ability to make food, science. 0. Ability to conduct scientific and technological research, creativity. 0. Ability to create art, farming. 0. Ability to farm, physical indicators, life. 100th stress. 45% bladder. 97% respiration, normal physical strength. 25% calories. 245 cal body temperature. 36.6 You go to the bathroom first and then go to eat? Well, how did you know? Guessed, I guessed. Bly and Owen was a little surprised. Could it be that he was too tense in a certain part of his body during class and Jiang Sheng saw it? Then I'll go first. Well, bye. After saying goodbye to Bly and Owen, Jiang Sheng immediately recalled what happened just now. I remember that Bly and Owen just put his arm on my shoulder and then I got his body information. And many of the descriptions are exactly the same as the clones. As if. Could it be that Jiang Sheng hurried back to his rental house and entered Noah? Jiang Sheng now has 114 survival points, enough to print a clone. In the interface for printing clones, Jiang Sheng saw that the new blueprint he had just collected was in a printable state. I can actually print clones based on real people. Jiang Sheng originally thought that the attributes of clones can only be random, and the printing cabin is like a Gashipan machine. The clones are what they are randomly given. But in fact, Jiang Sheng can obtain new blueprints and then perform directional printing. The way to obtain new blueprints is to have physical contact with others. It took Jiang Sheng 2 days to find out such an important point. In fact, it is not Jiang Sheng's fault. In the past 2 days, Jiang Sheng has been busy with Noah's exploration and the construction of initial survival buildings. He has no time to contact outsiders. That's not right. Jiang Sheng thought carefully. Although he rarely saw people in the past 2 days, it is impossible to say that there was no physical contact at all. The cashier lady at the hospital, the lady in the pet shop, the taxi driver uncle, the staff of the Kaylee station, the female classmate who asked him to borrow homework materials in the backseat just now. These people have had physical contact with Jiang Sheng, so why didn't he get their genetic blueprints? Thinking carefully, these people only had a momentary contact with him, not a long-term contact. And just now Bly and Owen had a long-term contact with him. The two walked side by side for at least 10 meters before they parted ways. In other words, only after a certain period of contact can you obtain the genetic blueprint of others. What if I masturbate? Jiang Sheng put his hands on his body for a while, and there was no sound in his mind. What am I thinking about? Jiang Sheng shook his head in self-mockery and looked back at the new blueprint carefully. Jiang Sheng had just tested the physical indicators through dialogue. Bly and Owen was indeed in a hurry to go to the toilet, and he was very hungry. He was going to the cafeteria to eat next. And in the more than 10 meters he walked just now, Jiang Sheng also saw some subtle changes in these physical indicators. But now, these physical indicators have completely stagnated. That is, when you are in contact with others, the various physical indicators obtained are real-time. If you are out of physical contact, these physical indicators will not continue to update. Take a look at Bly and Owen's resume again. Name, Bly and Owen, no problem. Age, 7942 cycles. Bly and Owen's birthday is quite special. It is the same as Jiang Sheng's dormitory number, which is easy to remember, 502. Adding Bly and Owen's age, Jiang Sheng calculated that Bly and Owen's age is indeed a complete 7942 days. As for those characteristics, it really seems to describe Bly and Owen himself. Bly and Owen's hobby is to do some small handicrafts, and his favorite is various models that need to be assembled by hand. If there are not too many books on the study table, he will definitely fill it with models. Getting up early is also a characteristic of Bly and Owen. Morning exercises are a habit he has developed since high school as a student in Jiang province, and he has maintained it in college. It is also very likely that he is a pacifist. After all, civilized society does not advocate solving problems with violence, especially for a promising college student like Bly and Owen, who is even less likely to do such a self-destructive thing. As for Bly and Owen's stress response and joy response, Jiang Sheng saw it with his own eyes. When he was just a sophomore, Bly and Owen met a freshman girl from the same club. They were both from Jiang province and they talked very well, so the two of them had a close relationship and would go back to their hometown together during the holidays. Jiang Sheng remembered that during that period, Bly and Owen would jump back to the dormitory every day when it was almost time for the dormitory to close, just like a child. Not long after the start of the second semester of the sophomore year, Bly and Owen confessed his love. Of course, he was rejected, and the reason was the old-fashioned reason of "you are a good person." But, after being rejected for confessing his love, he couldn't even be friends. During that period, Bly and Owen was extremely depressed. He was listless in class, didn't do morning exercises every morning, and didn't dare to go to club activities. Even the instructor could see that Bly and Owen had problems and gave him psychological counseling. That's right, compared with Jiang Sheng, who sneaked into Jiang Sheng University by virtue of his good geographical location, Bly and Owen was definitely a top student in the eyes of the instructor, who even noticed his listlessness in class. You are still too young, and there will be better people in the future. There are many beautiful women in the world, so why bother to love one flower unrequitedly? Later, after being persuaded by the instructor and 3 roommates, Bly and Owen regained his spirit and recovered his former spirit. Now it seems that these characteristics are completely about Bly and Owen himself. So what would it look like if I used this blueprint to print out a clone? Jiang Sheng swallowed his saliva, and then his mind moved, and the light curtain of the printing cabin appeared. A figure slowly solidified in the light curtain until the figure was completely solidified and fell to the ground, and the light curtain gradually disappeared. A person slowly walked out of the printing cabin. Jiang Sheng's pupils shrank rapidly, and he stared at the person's face closely. Fuck, Bly and Owen. Jiang Sheng was so shocked that he accidentally blurted out Bly and Owen's nickname. Chapter 11. It smells so good. Bly and Owen was given by the foreign teacher after an English class. The foreign teacher called the name and the students in the class heard it by mistake. It became Bly and Owen's official nickname at that time. However, this nickname was not very elegant, and it was abandoned by everyone after a while. But now, Jiang Sheng was too surprised and blurted out this not so elegant nickname. Because the person who came out of the printing cabin was none other than Bly and Owen. A thin face, a not so conspicuous mole on the mandible, a tall and thin figure, and his appearance from childhood to adulthood were exactly the same as Bly and Owen's. But Jiang Sheng, who calmed down, knew that Bly and Owen would definitely not be able to come to know her. The Bly and Owen in front of him was the clone he printed out using Bly and Owen's genetic blueprint. The most direct evidence was that this printed Bly and Owen wore the same tasteless clothes as the previous clones, a rough yellow and white sweater with black trousers. After observing for 2 seconds, Jiang Sheng slowly approached this Bly and Owen. Just like Bly and Owen before, when Jiang Sheng slowly approached him, this Bly and Owen just stared at Jiang Sheng blankly without any other action. After carefully observing for a few times, Jiang Sheng couldn't help but sigh. Similar. Too similar. At first glance, this Bly and Owen looked almost the same as the Bly and Owen on Earth. Not to mention Jiang Sheng, an outsider, even his mother wouldn't recognize him. But if you look closely, you can still find some clues. For example, this Bly and Owen has 4 fingers on both hands, just like the previous clones. Now Jiang Sheng has completely confirmed that 4 fingers are not a physiological defect of a certain clone, but a unified template for all clones. Since there is this attribute of 4 fingers, the production gun carried behind the back is also indispensable. In addition to these 2 points, there is another small difference. That is, there is a burnt scar on the inside of the elbow of the original Bly and Owen's right arm, but this clone Bly and Owen does not have it. Looking at the attributes of the clone again, it is not surprising that it is similar to the genetic blueprint just obtained. Resume name, Bly and Owen age. 7942 cycles gender, male traits, replicant, possessing the basic attributes of a replicant, dexterity, construction +3, operation +3, the early bird catches the worm, all skills +2 within 1/12 cycle after waking up. Pacifist, unable to complete combat work, stress response, laziness joy response, jumping for joy. Bly and Owen is very obsessed with models. If his personal space is filled with models, he will be very happy. Skill strength 0. Carrying and combat capabilities, mining. 0. The ability to mine resources, construction. 3. The ability to build, operation. 3. The ability to operate machinery, medical. 0. The ability to provide medical treatment, cooking. 0. The ability to make food, science. 0. The ability to conduct scientific and technological research, creation. 0. The ability to create art, farming. 0. The ability to farm, physical indicators life. 100th stress. 0% bladder. 97% breathing, normal physical strength. 25% calories. 245 cal body temperature. 36.6 except for the additional attribute of the clone in terms of characteristics, there is no other change. Even the physical indicators are inherited from the original except for the pressure. At this time, Jiang Sheng has not issued any instructions to Bly and Owen, and the movements of Bly and Owen's lower body are somewhat distorted, as if he is holding back the power of the world in his body. Since the physical indicators are also inherited from the original owner, the clone Bly and Owen is now in a state of holding urine and urgently needs to find a place to solve it. Bly and Owen first turned his head to look around, and then walked straight to the outdoor toilet on the left side of the cave, where he was born. This scene reminded Jiang Sheng of the classic movie of the governor. The governor came to this world naked, and also looked around first, and then walked straight to the thing he needed most, regardless of whether this thing had an owner or not. At this time, what Bly and Owen needed most was the toilet. After relieving himself, Bly and Owen ran to the ration box again, took out the nutrition bar inside, and feasted on it, as if no one was around. Really so familiar. After Jiang Sheng left, Bly and Owen were not idle. Jiang Sheng assigned them the task of changing the ground of the birthplace cave to bricks. The brick ground is more flat. Not only can it provide some convenience for Jiang Sheng himself, but also provide a buffer plus 25% running speed for the movement of the clone. This task has been arranged since the evening, and now half of the birthplace cave has been paved with bricks. You should know that these are not ordinary bricks, but super large bricks of 1 cubic meter each, which can not only provide a flat ground, but also serve as a solid foundation, so the paving speed is already very fast. After the bricks were laid, the ground immediately looked much neater, without the original potholes on the ground, but there were still large and small miscellaneous items on the ground. These miscellaneous items were the excavation products of Bly and Owen when they expanded the birthplace cave. Their excavation work would compress each cubic meter of resources into 30 cm 3 blocks and leave them in place, so now the birthplace cave is full of these blocks. Before, these things were always placed on the ground. Jiang Sheng didn't care about them, because they were his own resources and he could use them whenever he wanted. But now that there is another clone, he can clean up these miscellaneous items and give the birthplace cave more space to build buildings. If you want to clean up the debris, you have to build a building that can store it. After looking at the technology he has unlocked, there is a building in basic technology that has such a function. Storage box. It can store solid resources. Effect. Storage capacity 20 tons materials. 400 kilograms of sand and gravel. If the resources on the ground are not collected in time, they will regard them as debris and discard them at will. The introduction of the storage box is very simple. A storage box can store 20 tons of solid resources. Now, all kinds of resources in the birthplace cave can be stored in 3 storage boxes. Then, Jiang Sheng issued a series of construction tasks. First, build a storage box on the left side of the printing cabin, and then build another bed next to the 2 beds on the right side of the printing cabin. After all, there is another clone now, so there needs to be an extra bed. Bly and Owen put down the bricklaying task at hand, and ran to the printing cabin to start building storage boxes. The replicants were very conscious of the tasks assigned by Jiang Sheng. As long as there were tasks, the replicants would work until all the assigned tasks were completed. During this period, they would not be lazy except for their normal work and rest. Just like when the replicants built buildings before, Bly and Owen first collected some materials with the production gun, and then aimed at the target location of the construction, and the 2 storage boxes started to be built at the same time. It would take some time to build the storage box. Jiang Sheng was a little hungry after the evening class, so he went back to the rental house and ordered a takeaway of boiled skewers. In less than 20 minutes, the takeaway was delivered. With the still hot takeaway, Jiang Sheng took a can of Fat House Happy water stored in the refrigerator and the recliner in the bedroom, and returned to Noah. Bly had already started to build the second storage box, while the storage box built by Owen had just started to be capped. The 2 replicants started to build at the same time, but Bly finished it in a shorter time. Bly construction skill is +3, so of course he can build buildings faster than Owen, who has a construction skill of +0. Jiang Sheng lay leisurely on a recliner, with a bowl of Fat House Happy water on his left, and a paper bucket full of bamboo sticks on his right. He watched the 3 clones working, while eating the boiled skewers in his hand. Comfortable. I don't know why, but when I watch the clones working and eat leisurely on a chair, I have a very good appetite. It's even better than eating while watching anime. Thinking in his heart, Jiang Sheng stuffed another string of bean curd into his mouth, and with a light bite of his teeth, the secret soup of the boiled skewers sealed in the bean curd burst out in his mouth. That taste. It smells so good. Chapter 12. Survival Point Calculation Mechanism. Cycle 3. Colony Report. Details of clones. Calories produced. 800 cal consumption. 6000 cal net value, minus 5200 cal stress increase. 17% decrease. 10% net value. 7% disease status, no sick clones. Time details, working time. 52%. Walking time. 10% idle time. 4% base details, oxygen output. 12.5 kilograms, consumption. 1.9 kilograms net value. 10.06 kilograms comprehensive evaluation. Survival points plus 15. Today is Saturday, and Jiang Sheng has no classes. It was already 9:23 in the morning when he opened his eyes and received yesterday's colony report. He sat up lazily from the soft Simmons mattress, stretched his waist, twisted his upper body, and the spine of his back made a crisp sound. After brushing his teeth and washing his face, Jiang Sheng put on his protective clothing and went to Noah to take a look. Jiang Sheng actually assigned a lot of tasks to the clones yesterday, including building 3 storage boxes, a bed, laying bricks on the ground of the birthplace cave, and cleaning up the miscellaneous materials in the birthplace cave. At present, all the construction tasks have been completed, and the miscellaneous materials on the ground have not been processed. The processing of these miscellaneous materials is actually the most time consuming, because the steps for the clones to clean up the miscellaneous materials are to decompose them first, then absorb them, and then transport them into the storage box. Compared with ordinary excavation, there is an additional transportation step in processing miscellaneous materials. Moreover, the clones' minds are very rigid. When they clean up the miscellaneous materials on the ground, they will definitely use the blocks on the ground as units. For example, when humans clean up the garbage on the ground, they will use tools to collect the garbage in a certain area and then put them into the trash can together. The working logic of the clones is to send each resource block into the storage box separately, regardless of whether the size and quality of the block are suitable for a single transportation. If we use a formula to describe the brain circuits of replicants and humans when performing cleaning work, it would be like this. Humans, trash 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 full trash can, infinite loop replicant, block storage box, infinite loop. Such foolish logic makes replicants have higher work efficiency, but it cannot be achieved, and Jiang Sheng cannot change the work logic of replicants. This reminds Jiang Sheng of the work videos of black construction workers that are widely circulated on the internet. They like this kind of work logic with extremely low work efficiency. For example, using the productivity of 2 workers, a shovel, and a wheelbarrow to send sand from one pile of sand to another pile of sand, even though the 2 piles of sand are only 1 meter apart. Or a dozen workers line up in a row and pass 1 brick at a time to unload bricks from a truck. Of course, these black workers are simply lazy, and the inefficient logic of replicants should be considered a design flaw. Fortunately, replicants will work continuously and will not be lazy from time to time like humans, so the miscellaneous cleaning work on the ground can be completed around noon. After checking the progress of the work, Jiang Sheng looked at the debuff of the replicants. Bly, poor sleep quality, found new friends. Owen, very poor sleep quality, found new friends. Bly and Owen, found new friends. When checking the colony report in the morning, Jiang Sheng found that the number of survival points he obtained jumped to 15 points, and the pressure of the replicants was unprecedentedly reduced, although the pressure of the net value was still increasing. Jiang Sheng guessed that there should be some changes in the debuffs on the replicants. Now it seems to be true. This find new friends should be a buff with positive effects. Whenever a new replicant joins Noah, all replicants should get this buff for a period of time. Since they have this buff, it means that the replicants are completely friendly with each other, so Jiang Sheng doesn't have to worry about them fighting. Then the number of positive buffs and negative buffs on the replicants can offset each other, and 1 positive buff can offset 1 negative buff. Finally, each replicant can get a maximum of 5 survival points per day. This should be the entire calculation mechanism of survival points. As for the pressure of the replicants, the buffs with negative effects can significantly increase the pressure of the replicants, and the buffs with positive effects are not enough to completely offset the increase in the pressure of the replicants. Jiang Sheng guessed that the source of the pressure of the replicants was more extensive, and it was not something that could be added or subtracted by just 1 or 2 buffs. After inspecting the work, Jiang Sheng went to have breakfast first. There was a breakfast shop downstairs from Jiang Sheng's rental house. Although it was not as economical as a breakfast in the cafeteria of Jiangsheng University, the taste was very good. Boss, a hot and sour noodle and a tray of pork dumplings. Eat here. Okay. It was already past 10 o'clock in the morning, and Jiang Sheng was the only one in the whole store. The boss was busy in the kitchen alone, and Jiang Sheng sat in the restaurant and browsed B Station. Jiang Sheng browsed B Station in a simple and casual way. Most of the time, he was aimlessly browsing videos. The only videos he would actively look for were animation dramas and 5-minute movie commentaries. Jiang Sheng didn't watch many movies on weekdays. He would watch a complete movie about a month and go to the cinema with friends every 6 months to watch a theater movie. This level was definitely not considered a movie enthusiast, but Jiang Sheng is very enthusiastic about 5-minute movie commentaries. Basically, he watches more than 5-minute movie commentaries every day. For example, Guamo, A Dao is Back, Long Live Uncle Niu, Science Fiction Fan Bulma, Teacher Liu talks about movies, etc. are all the objects of Jiang Sheng's attention. The styles and film genres of these movie commentaries are different, but Jiang Sheng watches them all. He watches them all, but he is not obsessed with a certain commentary or a certain movie genre. It is Jiang Sheng's personality. Coco. After watching the previous movie commentary, the next movie commentary video was just about to be taken out for viewing, and the owner of the breakfast shop came with hot and sour noodles and xiaolongbao. Hot and sour noodles with xiaolongbao is a classic combination that Jiang Sheng has studied. There is no need to pour a special dish of vinegar for xiaolongbao. The buns can be dipped directly into the soup of hot and sour noodles. The taste is so sour and refreshing. The boss sitting opposite saw the pink interface on Jiang Sheng's phone, so he asked, "Is this Bilibili?" "Yes. My daughter also likes to visit this website, and she shares the videos with me when she has nothing to do." "Oh, by the way, you are a student in this university town, right?" "Yes. My daughter is also." The breakfast shop owner's expression was full of pride. It was indeed worthy of his pride to have a daughter who could go to college here. "Yes. My daughter recently started a club, if you are interested," as he said. The breakfast shop owner took out a flyer from his apron and placed it next to Jiang Sheng's table. It turned out that it was almost an advertisement. Jiang Sheng looked at the flyer on the table, and the name of the club was written in 3 large purple characters. Divination Club. What an unreliable club. But out of politeness, Jiang Sheng still smiled and replied, "Well, I will think about it carefully." The boss nodded with relief and stopped disturbing Jiang Sheng. Chapter 13 The Possibility of Evolution. Back in Noah, the replicant's mission had been completed. Bly, Owen, and Bly were standing next to the printing cabin, blowing air leisurely. According to Jiang Sheng's idea, the cleanup work should be completed by noon. Why was it completed so quickly? Jiang Sheng looked at the storage situation of the storage boxes. It turned out that all 3 storage boxes were full. As long as the replicants determined that the mission could not be completed, they would stop executing the mission. The size of the storage box is about the same as that of a double-door refrigerator. Using the replicant's unique compression storage technology, it can store 20 tons of materials. On the side of the storage box, there is a transparent strip from top to bottom. Through this strip, Jiang Sheng can see that the various materials inside will become layers of material layers, stacked together, and look like a 1,000-layer cake. The general container describes its capacity by volume, but the storage box built by the replicant is measured by weight, probably for this reason. The replicant's super strong compression force allows a storage box's capacity to only consider the load-bearing capacity of its structure, without considering the space occupation problem. In other words, if the structure of the storage box can bear 40 tons, then the replicant can put 40 tons of supplies in it. As for the material of the transparent strip on the side of the storage box, Jiang Sheng guessed that it should be glass. The manufacturing material of the storage box is obviously only 400 kilograms of sand and gravel. Why does the finished storage box have glass? There are more cases where the raw materials of the building do not correspond to the finished building. Jiang Sheng didn't pay much attention to this before, but now he has to keep it in mind. That is, all the buildings built by the replicants are not completely single colors. If you follow the instructions on the building materials, the buildings made of sand and gravel should be the color of sand and gravel, and the color made of copper ore should also be the color of copper ore. But why is most of the storage box bronze, and there are dark green lines on the food compressor? Careful observation shows that all the buildings have some colors that can only be made with pigments. Where does the pigment come from? Why do the replicants apply pigments during the construction process? Jiang Sheng feels that this is most likely the individual idea of the replicant when building the building, rather than the original design of the building. Because the two storage boxes made by Bly and Owen and the storage box made by Owen are not exactly the same in terms of the pigment area. Owen's storage box has one side that is not bronze, while Bly and Owen's is all bronze except for the long glass strip. This shows 2 points. First, the production gun of the replica is not just as simple as absorption, compression, and reorganization. It can also achieve some precision operations that Jiang Sheng did not expect, such as making a small amount of glass and making pigments from nearby materials. Second, the replica has an independent aesthetic. The first point is normal. After all, the production gun is a black technology that can change human history. It is not a big surprise that it can do more things. But the second point is a little scary, because independent aesthetics represents independent thinking. In the past few days, Jiang Sheng has only treated them as ruthless working machines that imitate human physiological mechanisms. They do not have their own thinking, but are just following the basic attributes given to them by the printing cabin, and doing things according to the various logics written in advance, and Jiang Sheng's instructions. Although the replicants are extremely anthropomorphic in many aspects, they do not have the most important individual thinking of humans. The act of applying paint on the replicants made Jiang Sheng realize that they might have individual thinking. This was not a casual application, because the bronze areas of the two storage boxes built by Bly and Owen were the same, which was his fixed aesthetic point of view. Having said that, even if it was a casual application, it was the beginning of individual differentiation in the group. If there is individual differentiation, then there is a possibility of evolution. Hundreds of years ago, the world generally accepted the geocentric theory, and it was a few people with different ideas who proposed the heliocentric theory, which promoted humans to better recognize their status. Later, the generally accepted heliocentric theory was broken again, and humans realized that even the sun was just a drop in the ocean in the universe. The differentiation of individual thinking has achieved human evolution. Now that replicants also have the possibility of such differentiation, it means that they can also evolve. After confirming this, Jiang Sheng decided that he could not simply regard replicants as working machines for his own use in the future. Reasonable use of their power to build Noah is one aspect, and studying and observing their behavior will also be an important task for Jiang Sheng in the future. Maybe with the deepening of research, there will be a chance to trace back to the origin of replicants, their creators, and the reasons for their creation. Back to the present, the cleaning work of the birthplace cave has been basically completed, and because it is all paved with bricks, the cave has already taken on some of the appearance of a base. Although the objects on the ground have not been completely cleaned, a large area near the printing cabin has been cleaned, and the remaining objects are mainly concentrated in the outdoor toilet on the left side of the printing cabin. Jiang Sheng did not establish a priority order when dividing the cleaning tasks, but all three clones took the initiative to choose to clean the objects outside the outdoor toilet first. No one has cleaned the objects around the outdoor toilet. The reason for this is thought-provoking. Fortunately, the outdoor toilet is far away from the printing cabin. Because Jiang Sheng does not have the night vision ability of the clone, the area he often moves in can only be within the range of the light of the printing cabin. Previously, Jiang Sheng tried bricks and storage boxes in base technology, oxygen diffusers in oxygen technology, human generators, wires, and batteries in power technology, food compressors in food technology, outdoor toilets and hand pumps in plumbing technology, beds in furniture technology. These are all necessary buildings to maintain the survival of clones and transform resources. Jiang Sheng must give priority to building them. But now that the ground has been cleared, Jiang Sheng has more space for the replicants to build more buildings to improve the living conditions in the base. Among the technologies that have been unlocked, there are still medical technology and platform technology that have not been tried. Now that there is enough space and resources, Jiang Sheng plans to start with medical technology. After all, if the replicants are injured, it will be a very difficult problem for Jiang Sheng, because Jiang Sheng has no understanding of the principles of their body structure, and is unable to treat them. Wash basin, remove some germs from the replicants. Requirements: consume 5 kilograms of water each time. Effect: produce 5 kilograms of contaminated water and clean most of the hand germs. They must wash their hands. In fact, Jiang Sheng has noticed this technology a long time ago, but the wash basin will produce contaminated water. It is extremely difficult to deal with contaminated water in this closed environment, so Jiang Sheng didn't think about building it too early from the beginning. But after a few days, the germs on the replicants have reached a state that can be seen in the germ view. The germ view will not show a single germ, only when the number reaches enough to cause disease. Now that the germs can be seen on the clone, it means that the germs on the clone are enough to cause disease. In addition, a large number of germs are also gathered around the outdoor toilet. The sanitation problem of the base must be taken seriously. Chapter 14. Shit Shoveler Jiang Sheng. Jiang Sheng's base now has two major sanitation problems. One is loose soil. The brick floor built by the replicant is very similar to the cement floor of a farmer's house, with many pits on it. Such pits are easy to hide dirt, especially when the replicants are digging. A large amount of loose soil will be hidden in them. When the replicants perform cleaning work, they will completely use blocks as units, and they cannot clean these loose soil. Now the whole base can be described in a local dialect as grey and choking. When Jiang Sheng looks at the air of the entire base against the light, he will feel foggy. If these loose soils are not cleaned, Jiang Sheng's throat and eyes will be uncomfortable in the short term, and they can also cause lung disease in the long run. Although wearing a mask and goggles can solve the problem, Jiang Sheng intends to use this cave as his long-term base. So these loose soils can only be handled by Jiang Sheng himself. The second is the hygiene of the replicants. When the replicants go to the toilet, they will produce germs, and these germs can only be cleaned by relying on a wash basin. But the germs will exist in the water, turning the water into polluted water. And outdoor toilets will continue to produce polluted soil. These are like a time bomb for the base that is currently under closure. Once it breaks out, it will be difficult to reverse. Jiang Sheng must also solve this problem as soon as possible. For the loose soil on the ground, Jiang Sheng plans to use a vacuum cleaner to clean it directly. There is a vacuum cleaner in the house that Jiang Sheng rented. This is left by the landlord, hoping that the tenants here can clean the house in their spare time. However, this vacuum cleaner cannot be used. It is not that the vacuum cleaner is broken, but that this vacuum cleaner is an old-fashioned wired vacuum cleaner and must be used with a socket. Although there is electricity supply in Noah's base, the wiring standards of the replicants are different from those of the Earth's electrical appliances. The wired vacuum cleaners are like decorations in this world. Jiang Sheng needs a wireless vacuum cleaner. Jiang Sheng quickly turned on his mobile phone and ordered a handheld wireless vacuum cleaner from Dami's house. He told Dami's customer service that he wanted express delivery in the city, and the customer service said that it could be delivered within 2 hours. During the 2 hours of waiting, Jiang Sheng was not idle and continued to assign tasks to the replicants. The current base has 3 roads leading to the outside caves, namely the oxygen cave on the left side of the printing cabin, the algae cave and the reservoir cave on the right side of the printing cabin. These 3 exits are unobstructed, and anything from the outside can enter the base from these 3 roads. Since it is called a base, it must meet the conditions of being closed. What is a base if it is not closed? It is called a square. So Jiang Sheng plans to set up pneumatic doors in basic technology on these 3 roads. Pneumatic door form a closed area, but will not block the passage of liquids or gases. Effect: you can choose whether to provide the clones with the right to pass and prohibit the passage of wild animals. Materials: 100 kilograms of copper ore. They feel safer, but it will also hinder their movement. 3 pneumatic doors. Bly, Owen, and Bly each built a door, and the distribution was very reasonable. But what's interesting is that Bly originally ran to the oxygen cave first, but when he came to the outdoor toilet, Bly suddenly turned around and ran in another direction, leaving the task of building the pneumatic door of the oxygen cave empty. Finally, Bly, who was the slowest to react, took on the task of building the last pneumatic door. This thief. While the three clones were busy with their tasks, Jiang Sheng began to take all the cleaning tools prepared by the landlord in the rental house to the base. Black plastic bags, rubber gloves, brooms, and garbage shovels. At present, there is no better way to deal with the contaminated soil accumulated in the outdoor toilets in the base, unless the clones organize the contaminated soil into blocks and then put them in the storage box. But the resources in the storage box are all clean resources, and they are stored in layers. If pollutants are put in, it will cause secondary pollution and expand the scope of pollution. It is not worthwhile to build a separate storage box for the contaminated soil in the toilet and occupy the limited space in the base. Therefore, Jiang Sheng had to do the work of cleaning the contaminated soil himself. Wearing protective tools all over his body, Jiang Sheng got into the outdoor toilet. The outdoor toilet is actually a semi-enclosed rural toilet. The fence used for shielding can only cover the area of half a person's height, and there is no gate on the toilet door. The clones do not lock the door when they go to the toilet, but the clones do react to others peeping at them when they are using the toilet. Once, Jiang Sheng walked to the outdoor toilet out of curiosity, wanting to see Bly's demeanor when he was using the toilet. But just as Jiang Sheng walked to the fence of the outdoor toilet, Bly immediately pulled up his pants and stood up, staring at Jiang Sheng with a hint of anger. Jiang Sheng originally thought that he just happened to have finished using the toilet, so he didn't pay attention and turned around and left. As a result, as soon as Jiang Sheng left, Bly squatted down and continued to use the toilet. Not only Jiang Sheng, but also Owen and Yanzang would pass by, and Bly would also pull up his pants and stand up alertly. So far, Jiang Sheng has not yet explored the secret of the clones' excretion, but only knows that they probably don't have the habit of wiping their butts. The style inside the outdoor toilet is the most simple squat toilet, and the pit under the squat toilet is very shallow, and you can see it at a glance. Using the mining lamp on his head to shine into the pit, there is already a pile of soil about 20 centimeters in it, and the tip of the pile is almost parallel to the ground of the squatting position. The toilet was full. If it was cleaned later, the clones would clean up the contaminated soil in their own way. For things that have no clear storage method, the clones have a unified cleaning method. That is to abandon them at will. Fortunately, everything in here is buried very well now, and the scene that Jiang Sheng imagined is not seen. If it weren't for the faint smell of ammonia in the air irritating Jiang Sheng's nose, Jiang Sheng would even forget what kind of pile of soil this was. Holding his breath, Jiang Sheng put both the garbage shovel and the broom in, and used the broom to shovel the contaminated soil into the garbage shovel. There are no more convenient tools, and Jiang Sheng can only do this now. The 3-layer black garbage bag was placed at Jiang Sheng's feet. Every time he shoveled a little contaminated soil, he quickly put it in. The soil pile in the pit is a cone. The more you go down, the more contaminated soil there is. It is more difficult to bend down, and you almost have to kneel next to the squatting position to handle it. After nearly half an hour of hard struggle, Jiang Sheng, sweating profusely, finally came out of the toilet door. He still held the cleaning tools and a large bag of contaminated soil that he had cleaned up in his hands. Jiang Sheng took off his mask immediately and breathed in the fresh air at the toilet door. That's right, for Jiang Sheng, who had just finished cleaning the toilet, even the air at the toilet door was fresh. After taking 2 big breaths of air, Jiang Sheng glanced at the cleaning tools next to him. The broom head was broken and could no longer be used because he used too much force when shoveling the soil. The garbage shovel was fine, but because it was made of plastic, it was also slightly deformed by the weight of the soil. Forget it, I'll buy a new one and supply it to the landlord later. At this time, Jiang Sheng turned around and saw that Bly next to him was looking at him with a sidelong look, his eyes full of curiosity. That look seemed to be saying, "What the hell are you? What are you doing?" Jiang Sheng was so angry that he shouted directly, "What are you looking at? Do your job." Bly seemed to understand Jiang Sheng's reprimand and immediately turned around to complete the last bit of the pneumatic door. Now Jiang Sheng looks like a shit shoveler who has just shoveled the shit for his master and vented his anger on his master. The status has been changed. Please collect and recommend. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, Genius Wash Basin. The way to deal with the contaminated soil is naturally to take it to your own world first, and then find a way. It cannot be left in the base. At present, it is unknown how these contaminated soils will behave on Earth. And these contaminated soils are also important samples, so Jiang Sheng cannot abandon them casually. He must first do some tests and then figure out how to properly deal with them. Jiang Sheng packed all the contaminated soil in the bathroom in small packages with tape as tightly as possible, and then stacked them one by one next to the toilet. After finishing all this, Jiang Sheng glanced at the dozen black packages piled on both sides of the toilet, and then turned his head to look at himself in the mirror wearing a protective suit and sweating profusely. With some ketchup is smeared on his body, Jiang Sheng might not be able to explain what he is doing, even if he has 10 mouths. It seems that we need to find a way to deal with these things as soon as possible. The work of the shit shoveler is completed, and Jiang Sheng returns to Noah to take a look at the 2 new buildings added today. The first is the wash basin. The main body of the wash basin is similar to the old-fashioned wash basin. There is a pillar on the ground, and a brown wash basin is supported on the pillar. There are 2 cylindrical glass jugs on both sides of the sink, one of which is filled with clean water, and the other is completely empty. Through the clean water, Jiang Sheng discovered that the glass produced by the replicant using the production gun is actually of very poor quality, with extremely poor light transmittance, and tiny impurities can be seen. Looking inside the sink, there is no faucet, only a device similar to a stove knob switch, and next to it, there is a dark pipe that extends slightly. And at the bottom of the sink, there is also a dark hole. Although it is impossible to see how the 2 pipes are connected, Jiang Sheng guessed that the high pipe should be the water inlet and the low pipe should be the water outlet. The water inlet is connected to the jug filled with clean water, and the water outlet is connected to the empty jug to collect sewage. Another thing is the thing above the sink. There is a towel rack above the sink, and there is a brown towel on the towel rack. But as long as Jiang Sheng touches it with his hand, he can feel that this is not an ordinary towel, but a towel made of sand and stone. It looks like the towel is swaying in the wind, but it is just carved into this shape, and this towel will always have only this shape. In other words, this towel is just a decoration here. Why is that? According to Jiang Sheng's previous idea, when building a building, the replicants will change the building according to their own ideas without changing the main design of a building. For example, the scope of paint application is an insignificant place. So is this towel rack also the individual idea of the replicant Bly and Owen? Yes, this wash basin is also the work of Bly and Owen. If there is a larger space, Jiang Sheng will build another wash basin to verify this, but the space of the base is limited now, and this wash basin occupies a large area, so there is no need to build an extra wash basin. Next, I have to personally test how to use this wash basin. Originally, it should be to see how the replicants use this wash basin, but the replicants will only use the wash basin under specific circumstances. Jiang Sheng can't let them take the initiative to wash their hands once, so Jiang Sheng can only do it himself. Rolling up his sleeves, Jiang Sheng put his hands in the wash basin, and then turned the only movable knob in the wash basin. Clear water began to flow out of the water inlet, and a paddle suddenly popped out at the outlet, blocking the entire hole. The water flow at the water inlet was not intense, and it did not feel like the pressure of a human faucet. After looking at the height of the clean water tank, Jiang Sheng knew that the water flow only followed the simplest principle of a communicating vessel before flowing into the pool. A certain amount of water accumulated in the pool, and Jiang Sheng turned the knob half a turn again. The water flow at the water inlet stopped immediately, and at the same time a small vortex appeared in the pool, and the water in the pool began to flow out from the outlet. What? I haven't washed yet. Jiang Sheng hurriedly washed his hands before the water completely flowed out, but in about 10 seconds, all the water flowed out. At the same time, some more water came out of the empty water pipe before. After careful observation, Jiang Sheng discovered the principle of this wash basin. It turned out that the knob in this pool had only 2 gears. Turning half a turn would open the water inlet and close the water outlet. Turning another half a turn would close the water inlet and open the water outlet. Functionally speaking, human wash basins have 4 states, but this wash basin has only 2 states. The human pool can open the water inlet and the water outlet at the same time, forming one of the most classic math problems in the history of elementary school mathematics, the pool problem. The water inlet can also be closed, and the water outlet can be closed at the same time, so that the water is always stored in the pool. But the replicant's wash basin cannot achieve these, because the knob in the wash basin controls the paddles at both the water inlet and the water outlet at the same time. One paddle must be closed, and the other must be opened at the same time. This mechanism seems to reduce the function of the wash basin and limit its use and usage scenarios, but after thinking about it carefully, Jiang Sheng found that this is definitely a genius idea, because the mechanism of this pool perfectly avoids the waste of water resources caused by the pool problem, and will not allow sewage to stay in the pool for a long time, thereby polluting the pool. The only problem is that it shortens the time of washing hands. But on the other hand, doesn't this greatly improve the efficiency of hand washing? No matter how slow a person is, the time it takes to wash his hands once with this wash basin can only be the time from the empty pool to the pool overflowing, and then all the water in the pool flows out. And because this wash basin cannot store water, it will also reduce the time for the next person to open the water outlet, to release the original water resources in the pool when washing hands. And although this mechanism reduces the time of washing hands, in fact, as long as Jiang Sheng starts washing hands from the moment the water comes out of the water outlet, he has enough time to wash his hands. In other words, this wash basin is the simplest way to greatly enhance the time efficiency and resource efficiency of hand washing, a human activity. It is the end of the pool problem, that there is no waste of water resources due to the pool problem. It is impossible to store water, reduce the pollution of sewage to the pool, and at the same time, enhance the hand washing efficiency of the next person washing hands. You only need to operate a knob to complete the whole process of washing hands, further enhancing the efficiency of hand washing. The water resources consumed for each hand washing can be demarcated according to the size of the pool. No matter how you wash, you can only use a full pool of water to wash your hands each time. Think further, if it is applied on the earth, its most suitable scene is the public wash basin. Because there are too many people using the public wash basins, many people's bad hand washing habits will cause various problems in the wash basins. For example, if you don't drain the water after washing your hands, the next person to wash their hands must put their hands into the sewage to drain the water. For another example, some people who love to take advantage of others will use public wash basins to do some washing activities that consume a lot of water resources. The inability of the pool to store water will make their wishful thinking extremely inconvenient. There is also the problem of the pool, which can also be eliminated. More extreme, if human water resources are scarce in the future, in order to eliminate the waste of water resources from the concept and improve the efficiency of hand washing, it is not a bad idea to fully apply this kind of wash basin in all social scenarios. Genius wash basin. It is recommended to promote it globally. Chapter 16 They don't change. Of course, global promotion is just a joke. The human concept is to engrave artistic patterns and patterns on the wash basin, so that each hand washing becomes a process of enjoying art, to prolong the time and comfort of hand washing. How can such a minimalist wash basin be used to improve the efficiency of hand washing? But for the limited thinking replicants, this wash basin has enhanced its use for hand washing to the greatest extent. The replicants use the wash basin to wash their hands, and will not use it for other things. In this case, what the replicants need is this wash basin with extremely high hand washing efficiency, which can be said to be a wash basin tailored for the replicants. In addition, the instructions of this wash basin mention that the water consumption for each hand washing is 5 kilograms. It should be the size of the wash basin that determines the maximum water consumption of 5 kilograms for each hand washing. After looking at the wash basin, it is the next building. The pneumatic door looks like 2 metal folding curtain doors that bite up and down to form a door. In front of the pneumatic door, there is a pressure plate that can be stepped on. Jiang Sheng tried to put his feet on it and heard the sound of the air valve starting and the upper and lower doors folded up. When the upper and lower doors shrunk to a height similar to the ground and the ceiling, Jiang Sheng could step over. Jiang Sheng calculated that it would take about 5 seconds to pass through this door, and after passing through this door, it would take another 3 seconds for the pneumatic door to close completely. Because the pneumatic door is driven by gravity, the efficiency of opening the door is completely incomparable to the electric pneumatic doors of buses and subways. But it can indeed prevent small animals from entering the base. Because Jiang Sheng put one foot on it and applied a little pressure, he found that the pneumatic door could not be started at all. That is, small animals with lower weight cannot open the pneumatic door through the pressure plate and cannot enter the base. In addition, Jiang Sheng also found that he could set this door through the visual command system. There are now 3 clones in the base, namely Bly, Owen and Bly. Jiang Sheng can directly set whether each of them has the right to pass through this door. This is quite convenient. If the base expands in the future and Jiang Sheng needs his own private area, he can directly achieve the effect of a password door through this permission setting. But this function is useless at the moment. The caves behind the 3 doors are places where the replicants need to collect resources frequently, so there is no need to set permissions. After studying the 2 new buildings, Jiang Sheng hurried back to the rental house to wait for the delivery call. The mobile phone will show that it is outside the service area in Noah. If someone calls Jiang Sheng at this time and the phone prompts that the other party is not in the service area, then Jiang Sheng will have a hard time explaining. It's okay once or twice, but it will inevitably make people suspicious if it happens frequently. So when Jiang Sheng enters Noah, his mobile phone is always in the rental house. Back in the rental house, I looked at my phone and there were no missed calls. It has been more than an hour since my order was placed, and the same City Express delivery should be delivered soon. So Jiang Sheng stayed in the room with peace of mind waiting for the call. After playing with the phone for half an hour, the Rice handheld cordless vacuum cleaner was finally delivered. After turning on the power, the electronic display screen showed that there was still 3/4 of power left. There was no need to charge it in a hurry, and it could be used first. Jiang Sheng brought the vacuum cleaner into Noah and pressed the power button. Sure enough, wireless electrical equipment could be used here. Okay, everything is ready. Jiang Sheng rolled up his sleeves and prepared to use the vacuum cleaner to clean the loose soil on the ground. When the replicants are performing tasks, they will run forward with big strides, which will inevitably raise dust on the ground, so Jiang Sheng did not assign any tasks. And the replicants without tasks will look for places with better oxygen conditions. If the oxygen conditions are similar, the replicants will stand near the printing cabin most of the time, occasionally pacing back and forth. Jiang Sheng turned on the strong suction mode of the vacuum cleaner, and the unique noise of the vacuum cleaner sounded in the base, immediately attracting the attention of the 3 replicants. When Jiang Sheng did something in the past, he would also attract the attention of the replicants. Just like when Jiang Sheng was cleaning the outdoor toilet just now, Bly would tilt his head to look at Jiang Sheng. But compared to the visual and smell stimulation, the sound seemed to attract them more, because this time the 3 clones ran directly from the printing cabin to Jiang Sheng's side. Bly, Owen, Bly, the expressions of the 3 people were exactly the same. It can be seen that the 3 clones are full of curiosity about Jiang Sheng's current job, and their eyes are always fixed on the source of the noise, the vacuum cleaner. Jiang Sheng suddenly had an idea. If he could teach them how to use the vacuum cleaner, wouldn't it be easier for him? Thinking in his mind, Jiang Sheng handed the vacuum cleaner to Bly, who was standing in the middle. Unexpectedly, Bly took a look at the vacuum cleaner handed over, then looked at Jiang Sheng, turned around and ran away. The vacuum cleaner turned to Owen, and Owen also ran away. Then it turned to Bly, and Bly also ran away. You guys. The 3 clones' upper bodies froze, while their lower bodies took big steps forward, and at the same time, they swung their hands back, making the gesture of hawkage running. The posture of running away was so shameless. That's right, Jiang Sheng felt that the 3 of them were running away. But the reason for running away was not because of refusing to work, but for some other reason. The clones definitely didn't know what a vacuum cleaner was, and naturally they couldn't know that this thing was used for work. So when the clones saw the vacuum cleaner handed over by Jiang Sheng, they chose to turn around and run away, perhaps for a more intuitive reason. Could it be that they thought I wanted to exchange their production guns for vacuum cleaners? The production gun can be attached to any part of the clone's body, and Jiang Sheng can't take it off. The only way to get the production gun is for the clone to hand it to Jiang Sheng in person. The vacuum cleaner and the production gun look similar, so Bly, Owen, and Bly and Owen all thought that I wanted to exchange the vacuum cleaner with them for the production gun. Jiang Sheng looked at the three people in the distance. Although they had already run away, his eyes were still aimed at this side. Forget it, ignore them, and clean up first. Jiang Sheng kept making noise in the cave with the vacuum cleaner. None of the three clones approached Jiang Sheng anymore. Even when Jiang Sheng cleaned near the printing cabin, the three clones all ran away. It seemed as if they were afraid that Jiang Sheng would use the vacuum cleaner to exchange production guns with them again. After more than half an hour, Jiang Sheng had almost finished cleaning, and the suction power of the vacuum cleaner gradually decreased until the last bit of power was gone. During this period, Jiang Sheng emptied the dust box of the vacuum cleaner several times, and the loose soil he cleaned up finally filled half a plastic bag. After vacuuming the ground, Jiang Sheng used a basin of water to fill the reservoir cave and sprinkled the water on the ground of the base. After doing all this, Jiang Sheng looked at the cleanliness of the base and nodded with satisfaction. It's much more comfortable now. They said that if you give them a recommendation vote, they will change. Asterisk carrot carrot asterisk. Chapter 17 Causes of Poor Sleep Quality. The previous base was at best a cave, which might be better than a mine, but it was limited. But now, Jiang Sheng looked at everything in front of him and felt that this place was like a primary shelter in some doomsday game. The primary shelter in the doomsday game has a relatively flat ground, dim lights, various equipment to maintain survival, and ragged humans. And now Jiang Sheng's base is similar, with a sandstone brick floor, dim lights provided by the printing cabin, oxygen diffusers, human generators, food compressors and other necessary buildings to maintain survival, as well as 3 clones with very poor clothing taste. In 3 days, Jiang Sheng solved the food, electricity, and metabolism problems of the base, and completed the exploration of Noah, clones and most basic technologies. If you want to continue to develop, there are 2 key points. One is technology. Technology is the biggest reliance of Jiang Sheng to establish a colony on Noah. Without the various technologies of clones, Jiang Sheng would be unable to move forward. At present, Jiang Sheng has tried most of the basic technologies, and the remaining technologies are things that Jiang Sheng believes are unnecessary to build at the moment. And if you want to obtain higher technology from basic technology, you need a technology building called a research station. According to its introduction, this thing can unlock higher technology through the research of basic technology. Now Jiang Sheng wants to further improve the technological level in the base, so he must build it. Without further ado, Jiang Sheng immediately assigned the task of building a research station. The second point to continue to develop is population. It is completely meaningless to have technology in the colony without clones. Only clones can operate the production gun, which makes clones irreplaceable. The development and operation of the colony cannot be separated from clones. And clones are also the key to satisfying Jiang Sheng's idea of exploring Noah. The clones provide productivity and use the powerful productivity to expand the base. Jiang Sheng's view system is set like the fog of war. Only when the base is built bigger and bigger, Jiang Sheng can see more things. The more things he sees, the more he can understand what kind of planet Noah is. Jiang Sheng even has a bold idea. Suppose he can use the printing cabin to create a considerable number of clones, and then use these clones to develop the entire Noah into a colony. Wouldn't that be equivalent to occupying a planet? Of course, the premise of all this is that Jiang Sheng has enough survival points. Only with survival points can he print clones and expand the population of the base. Now Jiang Sheng has determined that the survival point acquisition mechanism is to settle every day based on the number of clones in the base and the buffs on the clones. Now because Bly has just joined the colony, the 3 clones in the base have a positive buff of discovering new friends, so the survival points obtained every day are just the maximum. But this buff is definitely not permanent, and new friends will one day become old friends. And negative buffs will significantly increase the pressure on clones. So Jiang Sheng must consider how to remove the negative buffs on Bly and Owen. Now Bly has poor sleep quality and Owen has extremely poor sleep quality. There is only one word difference between these 2 entries. Jiang Sheng thinks there must be a reason for this. Jiang Sheng, who was busy all afternoon, did not choose to go out for dinner, but ordered a takeout. Jiang Sheng is particularly good at eating today. A bowl of fat and lean beans, rice and cold chicken rack was finished in no time. After eating, take a 1-hour break before taking a shower, clean up the dirty body, and relieve the fatigue of muscle tissue. Although Jiang Sheng has an independent personality, he has hardly done housework since he was a child. Although there is no hostess in Jiang Sheng's villa, the housework has always been undertaken by the nanny, and it is not Jiang Sheng's turn to do anything. Jiang Sheng thought that he would be very uncomfortable after today's work, but on the contrary, Jiang Sheng now feels a little bit of enjoyment. In addition, the base was cleaned up relatively clean today. If you don't do any dirty work in the future, you don't have to wear protective clothing, which will be much more convenient. At 9:55 PM, Jiang Sheng came to Noah in a nightgown. According to the biological clock of the replicant, at 10 PM on Earth time, the replicant will stop all the work at hand and go to bed on time. Now there are 5 minutes before the replicant goes to bed. During these 5 minutes, Jiang Sheng inspected the situation of the base again. The construction of the research station is carried out by Bly. Judging from the progress bar, only 1/3 of it has been built. It seems that the construction of this research station is quite time consuming, more time consuming than all the previous buildings. Moreover, only one person can be assigned to perform the construction work, which means that a single construction task cannot be accelerated by adding more people. When building a building, the replicant will first pile up a rough outline with raw materials, and then slowly refine the outline, to finally become a finished product. From the current outline of the research station, Jiang Sheng can't tell what it looks like, and can only wait for the finished product to come out. Owen on the other side of the base is operating the food compressor. Now there are only 2000 calorie nutrition bars left in the base, and Jiang Sheng can't find other food sources in a short time. Although Jiang Sheng doesn't want the replicants to eat mud cakes, guanine soil, it seems that he has to do it now. And the last Bly is alone in carrying out the excavation task assigned by Jiang Sheng. Jiang Sheng wants to dig a larger cave next to the base. At 10 o'clock, the 3 replicants put down their work and return to their beds. The sleeping places of the 3 clones are all located on the right side of the printing cabin. The 3 beds are lined up in a row, and the order is printing cabin, Bly, Owen, Bly. As long as a clone has slept on a bed once, other clones will not sleep on a bed that already has an owner. This orderliness of the clones saved Jiang Sheng a lot of trouble. The 3 clones lay on the bed, closed their eyes, and fell asleep immediately. Jiang Sheng sat in the middle of the 3 clones, like a kind old mother watching her children fall asleep quietly. Bly and Owen both slept with their backs to the printing cabin, and Bly slept in a supine position. At present, Jiang Sheng has not found anything abnormal about the sleeping posture of the clones. It looks like the expression of a normal human falling asleep. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Bly and Owen turned over at the same time, facing the front of their bodies to the printing cabin. Even if they are asleep, the production guns on the clones will always be attached to the clones. When the clones turn over, the production guns will slide on the clones' bodies like balls, and will not fall off, or hit the clones' bodies. But Jiang Sheng noticed that the expressions of Bly and Owen had changed. Their eyelids began to twitch, and their sleeping postures became strange, as if something had disturbed their sleep. At the same time, Bly made a sound. Whoo, woo, woo, woohoo, woo, woo, woo. This guy is snoring. As Bly's snoring became louder, Owen's sleeping posture became worse. Chapter 18. The base will never be short of oxygen. Owen sat up from the bed, rubbed his eyes with this expression, and then lay down again. Jiang Sheng finally knew why Owen's sleep quality was extremely poor. It turned out to be the light of the printing cabin and Bly's snoring. Bly's own poor sleep quality was simply due to the light of the printing cabin. And Jiang Sheng was some distance away from the printing cabin and Bly, so his sleep was not affected by these interference factors. As for why Bly snores, it is actually very clear in Bly's characteristics. Bly, snoring like thunder, snoring while sleeping. Jiang Sheng didn't care about this trait before. Anyway, it didn't affect himself, but Jiang Sheng didn't expect this trait to affect the sleep quality of other replicants. In other words, the life of replicants is actually more anthropomorphic than Jiang Sheng imagined. Jiang Sheng must try his best to think about how to protect the lives of replicants from a human perspective. Cycle 4 Colonial Report. Details of the clones. Calories produced. 13,600 cal consumption. 6,000 cal net value. 7,600 cal stress increase. 17% decrease. 10% net value. 7% disease status. No sick clones. Time details. Working time. 56%. Walking time. 6% idle time. 4% details of the base. Oxygen output. 23 kilograms. Consumption. 1.5 kilograms net value. 22.5 kilograms comprehensive evaluation. Survival points plus 15. The next morning, Jiang Sheng got up and went to Noah first. At this time, the discover new friends on the 3 clones in the base had all disappeared, and now there were only 2 negative buffs left, poor sleep quality and extremely poor sleep quality. That is, Jiang Sheng must solve the sleep problem for the clones today. Fortunately, yesterday, Jiang Sheng assigned a task, which was to let Bly dig a new cave on the road between the base and the reservoir cave. Jiang Sheng originally planned to use this cave to accommodate new buildings, but now it seems that he can only turn this cave into a bedroom for the clones. After half a day of excavation yesterday, the new cave is currently only 5x4 in area, and all caves are excavated at a uniform height of 4 meters. Although the area of the cave is still small, there is no light source in the cave, so you only need to pay attention to separating Bly and the other 2 clones by a certain distance. After determining this principle, Jiang Sheng set the task of building 3 beds in the cave. One of the beds is on one side of the cave, and the other 2 beds are on the other side of the cave. At the same time, let the clones dismantle the 3 beds crowded in the base. Dismantling a building means restoring the building to the state of a block, and the speed of dismantling a building is half the time of building the building. That is, as long as the clones with higher construction skills, the speed of dismantling the building will be faster. In order to allow the clones to sleep in the new bed before going to bed at night, Jiang Sheng will increase the priority of the task of building a new bed. When there are multiple tasks in Noah, Jiang Sheng can adjust the priority of each task. There are 9 levels of normal priority from 1 to 9, and the higher the number, the higher the priority. Generally speaking, as long as the priority of the tasks assigned by Jiang Sheng has not been adjusted, they will default to the priority level 5. Tasks of the same level are parallel tasks, and the clones can choose which one to complete first, based on their personal interests. However, with the priority, the clones can take the initiative to complete a task. Above the normal priority level 9, there is a priority marked with. This priority is the highest among all levels. As long as Jiang Sheng issues a task of this level, the clones of the entire Noah will immediately put down their work and complete the task with all their strength until the task is completed. However, this priority is not a priority that can be used at will under normal circumstances, because this priority has instructions for use. Using this priority will increase the stress value of all clones, and add a negative buff of all clones being in a hurry for one cycle. Hurry, work efficiency is reduced by 30%. Therefore, the default priority level that Jiang Sheng can use is the normal 9 priorities. In Jiang Sheng's small base, there are already certain differences in task priorities. At present, all excavation and development tasks are at the default level 5, including yesterday's excavation of new caves and construction of research stations. In terms of daily maintenance, the task priority of the human generator is level 5, the task priority of the food compressor is level 5, but the task priority of the oxygen diffuser is level 6. This is also the mechanism discovered by Jiang Sheng. As long as the battery power of the human generator drops to 20%, the replica will take the initiative to run on it. Even if the priority is not adjusted, the use of power equipment will never be affected by power shortage. The task of the food compressor is that the replica will only make food when Jiang Sheng selects the recipe and production quantity, and it does not need a higher priority at ordinary times. For example, yesterday Jiang Sheng asked the replica to make 17 slime cakes, and the replica would immediately go to operate the food compressor. But sometimes the replica will not take the initiative to add algae to the oxygen diffuser. Jiang Sheng analyzed the reason. It may be that in the replica's mind, whether to operate these buildings that maintain daily operations is judged by some kind of signal. When the battery power drops to 20%, the replica will run the wheel to fully charge the battery. Jiang Sheng arranged the food recipe and quantity, and the replica will operate and make food. The operating signal of the oxygen diffuser should be whether the replica's current breathing situation is threatened by hypoxia. For example, at a certain time yesterday, Jiang Sheng, who was alone in the base, suddenly felt a little difficult to breathe. As a result, he looked at the gas view and found that the oxygen content in the base had dropped to 18%. Then he looked at the oxygen diffuser, and it was not working. The oxygen diffuser will work as long as the oxygen content in the air is less than 21%, but it is not working now. After careful study, it turned out that there was no algae in the oxygen diffuser. The oxygen diffuser requires the clones to add algae to it all the time. But at that time, the 3 clones in the base happened to be out, and no one took the initiative to come back to add algae to the oxygen diffuser in the base. Jiang Sheng himself did not have a production gun, so he could not add algae to the oxygen diffuser. In the end, Jiang Sheng raised the priority by 1 level, and the clones rushed over to add algae. This situation never happened before when all the clones were in the base. As a result, as soon as the clones left the base, they all forgot to add algae, and without adjusting the priority, no one thought of coming back to add algae. This is enough to show that the clones will only remember to add algae to the oxygen diffuser when they feel the lack of oxygen. Oxygen is the key to human survival. People will die if they are without oxygen for a few minutes. Jiang Sheng doesn't want to die quietly in nowhere due to lack of oxygen. In the future, as the construction around the base expands, the clones will move to more distant areas. If the clones forget to add algae at that time, it will be even more troublesome. Although there are portable oxygen tanks stored by Jiang Sheng in the base, it is better to be safe than sorry. If the base falls into a state of lack of oxygen, it will be a fatal threat to Jiang Sheng and the clones. The base must never be lacking in oxygen. Chapter 19. Hypothesis on the relationship between clones and production guns. The oxygen diffuser needs 2 air conditions to work. One is the normal oxygen content, and the other is that the air pressure maintains the standard value. Since a new space was dug next to the base yesterday, in order to maintain normal air pressure, the oxygen diffuser produced a large amount of oxygen. However, it also consumed a lot of algae and electricity. In other words, building a colony underground is not as simple as imagined, and there are many more things to consider than normal ground conditions. But fortunately, the space in the base is still enough. Jiang Sheng plans to turn the new cave next to the base into a special bedroom for the clones, and the base is specially used to place various new technology buildings. In this way, it is convenient for him to observe the clone technology and the situation of the clones at work. On the other hand, it can separate the work area from the living area, which is more reasonable from a humanistic perspective. At present, Bly and Owen are building new beds, and Jiang is concentrating on building the research station, and there is only 1/2 progress bar left to complete. Jiang Sheng can basically not help Nori with work, because most of the clone technology needs to produce guns before it can be used. For example, adding algae to the oxygen diffuser, adding materials to the food compressor, and even using a hand pump to get water from the reservoir cave. The only thing Jiang Sheng could do for Noah was running the wheel on the generator, but Jiang Sheng was not physically strong and could not compare with the clones in terms of power generation efficiency. For other tasks that seemed to be completed by human hands with the help of simple tools, the clones also insisted on using production guns to complete them. This also made Jiang Sheng have more guesses about the clones. That is, the clones actually look like humans, but for humans, they are a highly evolved product of technology. The hardware conditions are far higher than those of humans, and the software conditions have a strong collective consciousness, while retaining personal interests. Moreover, they have a high degree of dependence on production guns, which is even several times higher than the dependence of modern humans on mobile phones. If there is no production gun, many work replicas cannot be completed, and they are just waste that can eat, drink water and excrete. This also explains why Jiang Sheng wanted to exchange production guns with them before, and all the clones ran away without looking back, and even when they sleep, the production guns will not leave their bodies. This high reliance on production guns will also lead to the next level of speculation, that is, the speculation about why all replicants are missing a finger. In fact, the hands of modern humans are like a flexible pair of pliers. The thumb and the other 4 fingers are the upper and lower jaws of the pliers, which can complete the most basic grasping work. But in actual use, it can be found that one finger is rarely used. That is the little finger. The little finger has the smallest strength among the 5 fingers, and its flexibility is second only to the ring finger. Its main function is to coordinate the other 4 fingers, and it has the least direct use scenarios in life. Of course, in addition to working like a vertical orchid finger, if there is no little finger, it will be less charming. And when doing finger exercises, it can be found that the other 4 fingers on the human hand can basically move flexibly. Only the little finger will involve the ring finger when it moves. That is, when the little finger moves, the ring finger will also move. Scientists have come up with a guess. Is it possible that at some stage in ancient times, the ring finger and the little finger of humans were actually connected together? The inflexibility of the ring finger and the weakness of the little finger make these 2 fingers not so perfect. But what if these 2 fingers were one finger a long time ago? Of course, this is just a guess by scientists. It was too long ago and there is no evidence to prove it. But now, Jiang Sheng has explored the possibility of it, because the clone's hand has 4 fingers. At first, Jiang Sheng thought that the 4 fingers of the clone might be just a personal defect, but later he found that Bly and Owen's clone also had 4 fingers. Jiang Sheng knew that this must be the basic design of the clone, not a personal defect. You must know that Bly and Owen's clone was copied, based on the genes of Bly and Owen, a human on Earth. This kind of copying technology, that can accurately restore even a small mole, cannot make a low-level mistake of missing a finger. And if you look closely at the 4 fingers of the clone, they are also somewhat different from humans. There is a finger on the clone's hand that is obviously similar to the thumb, and the thickest of the other 3 fingers is actually the finger at the position of the ring finger. Judging from the relative positions of several fingers, only the little finger is missing. The clone's ring finger is the finger farthest from the thumb, and its thickness is thicker than the middle finger. The advantage of this physiological structure is also quite special. That is, it can be convenient to operate the production gun. Jiang Sheng carefully observed the structure of the production gun while the clone was sleeping. The structure of the production gun is similar to that of an oversized pistol, with a horn-like structure in the front and a gun in the back. But if you look closely, you can find that there are 2 triggers that can be pulled on the trigger position of the production gun. When the clone is working, the clone will hold the grip of the production gun with a thumb and ring finger, and the index finger and middle finger will frequently pull the 2 triggers. The more complex the work, the higher the frequency of the clone to operate the 2 triggers, and excavation work is the lowest frequency of operation. This shows the rationality of the clone's 4 fingers in operating the production gun. The clone's most powerful thumb and ring finger can maintain the stability of the production gun and hold the entire grip. The index finger and middle finger are specifically used to perform trigger pulling work that requires frequent operation and switching back and forth. If it were a combination of a human's thin and clumsy ring finger and little finger, it would certainly not be able to operate the production gun as flexibly as the clone. Coupled with the clone's high dependence on the production gun, it can even be speculated that the clone's 4-fingered hand is designed to more conveniently operate the production gun. Although a 5-fingered hand will definitely be more flexible and can do more things, Jiang Sheng thinks it is not a bad idea to give up a finger for the black technology of the production gun. The ability of the production gun is too amazing. It can easily complete the conversion of materials by pulling the trigger, making Noah's underground colony plan from impossible to possible. Again, if humans can use production guns, human history is bound to be rewritten. And what puzzles Jiang Sheng the most is that the production gun has no energy source. Chapter 20 Research Station in Tech Tree. According to Jiang Sheng's observations over the past few days, the replicants have never charged their production guns. Perhaps the production gun uses a more advanced energy source than electricity, but no matter what kind of energy it is, Jiang Sheng has never seen the replicants recharge the production gun. Like the production gun, the printing cabin also does not need to be recharged. There is no similar energy transmission line on the printing cabin, but the long burning light on the top of the printing cabin indicates that the printing cabin is always in working condition. Jiang Sheng has no idea about the energy source of these two things, but the production gun is printed by the printing cabin, so it should be possible to judge that the energy of the production gun and the energy of the printing cabin are the same. If humans can master this unknown energy source, then Jiang Sheng shook his head and gave up meaningless reverie. After all, the production gun is a special prop of the replicants, and there is no structure similar to screws on the printing cabin. Only violent disassembly can explore its internal structure. But there is only one printing cabin. After disassembling it, Jiang Sheng will definitely not be able to put it back. Not only the printing cabin, all the buildings built by the replicants have no structural combination methods similar to screws and mortise and tenon joints from the outside, and they can only be disassembled violently if they want to disassemble them. 3 hours later, the research station was finally built. The research station looks like a workbench. On the left side of the workbench is a blackboard. On the right side is a huge distillation flask and a row of test tubes, and under the workbench are piles of books. Books? Jiang Sheng's pupils trembled slightly. Do clones also need to read? What kind of books will they read? Seeing the books, Jiang Sheng's curiosity exploded, and he quickly reached out to take the books below. As a result, when he exerted force with his hands, he couldn't lift the books at all. Is it because the power of knowledge is too heavy? Jiang Sheng squatted down and took a closer look. It turned out that the piles of books under the workbench were actually book-shaped statues that couldn't be moved at all. It's like the bookshelves in the internet cafe. When you pick them up, you find that they are all paper boxes. Moreover, these book-like statues are of very low quality. They look like colorful covers, but there is no text on them, and the spines on the sides are also blank. Jiang Sheng let go of his hand with some disappointment. The wash basin built by the clones before was also the same. There was also a meaningless towel statue on it, so this time it was not surprising. The blackboard and test tubes on the workbench were also expected. The production gun of the replicants could produce a small amount of inferior glass, so it was normal for them to produce these. It is worth noting that there is a wavy function graph drawn on the blackboard. There are no parameters written in the coordinate system, but it looks like a trigonometric function from the graph. Next to Jiang Sheng's vision, the properties of this research station are displayed. Research station. Unlock higher technology through research on basic technology. Requirements: 50 kilograms of soil/research point, 60 watts of electricity, replicant operation effect, basic research, heat 1.13 kJ/second material. 400 kilograms of copper ore. They can't create everything out of thin air, and the research station is indispensable for their technological research. In short, as long as you have this thing, you can unlock the technology tree of the replicants. Jiang Sheng couldn't wait to open the technology tree in his vision. The technology tree is divided into 11 major categories. The technological products in these 11 categories are crisscrossed like tree branches, with a clear order of precedence, which looks very complicated. The 11 categories are food, electricity, solid materials, colony development, medical treatment, liquids, gases, spacesuits, decoration, automation, and rockets. Rockets. Jiang Sheng's eyes lit up immediately when he saw these two words. Jiang Sheng's father, Jiang Zhe, is the chairman of the first commercial rocket technology company in China. In his early years, he was an engineer at the Huax National Launch Vehicle Technology Research Institute, so Jiang Sheng knows more about rockets. Although rocket technology is not so popular, it is an important technology that can affect the future of mankind. There is a classification method for cosmic civilizations, which is to classify civilizations according to the fastest speed that the aircraft of the civilization can reach. The development of civilization requires resources, and being able to fly farther means being able to obtain more resources, so this classification method is not unreasonable. The existence of rockets in the technology tree of clones is far beyond Jiang Sheng's expectations, because this means that the development of clones is not limited to Noah, and there is a chance to explore the surrounding galaxies. There is even a chance to return to Earth. At present, Jiang Sheng can travel back and forth between Earth and Noah, but clones cannot. Jiang Sheng doesn't even know where Noah is in the universe. But imagine, if we have rocket technology for clones, and rockets bring clones back to Earth, the whole world will be shocked. Jiang Sheng can even pretend to be the master of a civilization, and negotiate with the whole Earth. Just thinking about it is exciting. Unfortunately, rocket technology cannot be directly selected. You need to unlock several other categories of technology crystals before you can finally unlock rocket technology. And to unlock each technology, you need research points. Moreover, Jiang Sheng found that some basic technologies at the front end of the technology tree only need one blue research point. That is, research points that can be produced by research stations, and some other high-end technologies require another red research point. It seems that the development of the technology tree must be gradual and cannot be opportunistic. Otherwise, the colony may collapse before the rocket is built. Only by researching technology and developing the technology tree according to the needs of the colony can you finally unlock rocket technology. Since you already have a technology tree and can start research, Jiang Sheng will not hesitate and quickly find the first technology suitable for unlocking. At present, the most worrying thing for Jiang Sheng in the base is food. Although there are a lot of slime cakes in the base now, and there are still a lot of raw materials to prepare more slime cakes. But the slime cake is obviously a transitional food. Whether it is the food introduction or the display on the bacteria view, the slime cake cannot be used for long-term consumption. Jiang Sheng once thought about getting food from the earth and then distributing it to the clones to solve the food problem. But after experimenting, Jiang Sheng found that this was impossible because the clones had no reaction to the food Jiang Sheng handed over. The clones would rather eat guanine soil and had no reaction to the fragrant braised chicken rice in Jiang Sheng's hand. At most, they would take a look and then continue to eat their own guanine soil. Jiang Sheng also tried to put bread in the food box to see if the clones would choose to eat bread because of the aroma of food. But the clones still only chose the slime cake and would not use the bread. Even the first slime cake produced by the food compressor before, because Jiang Sheng touched it and then put it in the food box, the clones never used it. It seems that the logic of the clones eating food is that only the food produced by the clones themselves and put in the food box will be eaten by the clones. This logic should be to prevent the replicants from eating randomly and causing unnecessary trouble, but now it has become the key to hinder Jiang Sheng from feeding them. The replicants are like animals in a zoo. No matter how hungry they are, Jiang Sheng can't feed them because it says no feeding on the fence. So the only way to solve the problem of replicants' food is to let them be self-reliant. Chapter 21. Their research is to make figures. Since the colony was facing a food problem, Jiang Sheng planned to start researching the food category. The food technology tree is a separate technology tree, and other types of technology research do not require the technology crystals of food technology to unlock. However, food technology has two key technology crystals: agriculture and animal husbandry. If you want the resources in the base to achieve self-circulation, you must develop food technology. The most basic technology of food technology is basic farming. Basic farming. Learn the basic principles of cultivating plants. Requirements: 15 research points. Effect: after unlocking, you can build algae boxes, compost piles, planting boxes, and ration boxes. Current progress: 0/15. Each technology research can unlock a number of new buildings, and it is once and for all. Once unlocked, all clones can build these new buildings. Jiang Sheng's mind moved, and he made up his mind to start researching basic farming. I saw Bly and Owen first ran to the storage box and absorbed some soil with a production gun, and then ran to the research station and put the absorbed soil on the workbench. What happened next was a little difficult for Jiang Sheng to understand. Bly and Owen first turned on the electric heating device under the large flask, and then used a production gun to put some yellow substances and water into the large flask. The solution in the large flask kept burning, and Bly and Owen was not idle either, and began to knead the soil on the workbench. Under the baking of the electric heating device, the solution in the large flask gradually began to boil, and the color slowly turned yellow. Bly and Owen took the flask directly with his hands, poured the solution in the flask on the soil, and then continued to knead the soil ball like dough. The soil ball slowly dyed a uniform yellow, and the flexibility seemed to be very good, just like the yellow plasticine that children play with. Then Bly and Owen pulled out a small ball from the soil ball and began to pinch various shapes with this small ball with his two hands. Printing cabin. Jiang Sheng watched the soil in Bly and Owen's hand slowly being kneaded into the shape of the arch of the printing cabin. Although the shape was only approximate, the large light bulb on the arch was still very eye-catching. After kneading it, Bly and Owen placed the printing cabin figurine in the corner of the workbench, and then pulled out a small piece from the mud ball. After a while, the mud ball in Bly and Owen's hand was kneaded into a vacuum cleaner. The shape was still only approximate, but the eye-catching vacuum cleaner head still made Jiang Sheng recognize that it was a vacuum cleaner. After kneading the vacuum cleaner figurine, Bly and Owen put it aside and continued to knead the figurine. In this way, 2 hours passed, and Bly and Owen successively kneaded figurines of more than a dozen things with the mud ball. There were food compressor figurines, hand pump figurines, bed figurines, nutrition bar figurines, outdoor toilet figurines, clone figurines, and some things with strange shapes that Jiang Sheng could not recognize at all. In short, in these 2 hours, Bly and Owen had been kneading various figurines with the mud ball, and it seemed that he had not done anything related to research at all. Bly and Owen looked at all the figurines on the workbench with satisfaction, then raised the production gun, and absorbed all the mud figurines on the workbench into the production gun. Jiang Sheng looked at the number of research points in his field of vision, and found that it was suddenly different from 2 hours ago. Basic farming. 1/15. This means that in the past 2 hours, Bly and Owen has obtained 1 research point through his dedicated research. Question mark question mark question mark. Black question mark point JPG. Could it be that their research is to make figurines? After Bly and Owen finished this, he ran to the storage box to take out some soil and repeated the previous activities, except that the color of the solution changed from yellow to green. Seeing this, Jiang Sheng understood. The process of researching clones is to first make a clay ball, then use the clay ball to make small figurines of various shapes, and finally absorb the made figurines back into the production gun. The description of the research station is that each research point needs to consume 50 kilograms of clay, which should be the weight of the clay ball used by the clones each time. And those yellow and green solutions should be things like pigments. Although Jiang Sheng's visual command system can see most of the actions of the clones and the changes in resources in the base, it is actually not that accurate. For example, Jiang Sheng now has 20,145 kilograms of arable soil, and the number is not accurate to the decimal point. This means that, if the replicant uses resources that cannot be accurate to the decimal point to do something else, Jiang Sheng will not be able to find it at all. The same should be true for these green and yellow solutions. The green substances are likely to be algae, and the yellow substances may be something collected by the replicant from other places. As for the clean water, as long as the replicant uses a very small amount, it will not be reported to Jiang Sheng. However, according to Bly and Owen's research speed, each technology point takes 2 hours, so 15 technology points is 30 hours. Although it is very fast compared to the research speed of humans, that can take several years, it is indeed very slow according to the efficiency of the replicants. The productivity of the replicant is very huge. Currently, Noah has only 3 replicants. Bly and Owen cannot leave the research station when conducting research, which is equivalent to Noah reducing 1/3 of its productivity in 30 hours. And if you look closely at Bly and Owen's resume, you will know that Bly and Owen is not the best replicant to operate the research station. Among the replicant's skills, science can affect the replicant's scientific research ability. Bly and Owen both have zero science, and Bly is even worse. Due to his country bumpkin characteristics, he cannot perform research tasks. Among Jiang Sheng's 3 clones, none of them is particularly suitable for performing research tasks. Research on the technology tree takes time. The higher the science of the clone, the faster the research speed and the faster the colony will develop. So if you want the colony to develop faster, Jiang Sheng needs a clone with high science, and then let this clone specialize in research. But how to get a clone with high science? Jiang Sheng looked down at his hands and suddenly an idea came to him. Right. Jiang Sheng remembered that he had obtained Bly and Owen's genetic blueprint through physical contact before, and the description of the genetic blue group was basically Bly and Owen himself. Conversely, if he only needs to find an earthling who looks like she has strong scientific research capabilities, and then use this method to obtain her genetic blueprint, he can print out a high science clone. Jiang Sheng had never thought that the function of obtaining genetic blue groups through touch could be used in this way, but now that he thinks about it, this function seems to be an important function that is indispensable for the rapid development of the colony. Just by touching, you can get the blue gene group you want, and then get a clone with suitable attributes. Isn't this? I use my hands to achieve my dream. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Vertical Colonial Development Ideas. But Jiang Sheng thought about it again, and it seemed that it was not that simple. He had obtained Bly and Owen's genetic blueprint before, and Bly and Owen was the best student among the 4 people in Jiang Sheng's dormitory, and he was not even in the top 5 in the entire environmental science major. Although Jiangsheng University is full of talents, this is already the strongest academic master that Jiang Sheng can get close to, but even for such an academic master, science is only 0. In other words, the scientific skills in the genetic blueprint are not judged by academic performance. Jiang Sheng took a closer look at the skill introduction of the replicant. Science represents scientific research ability. It seems that it has nothing to do with learning. Being good at learning does not mean that you are suitable for scientific research, because learning is to accept knowledge, and scientific research is to create knowledge. If we talk about the relationship between the two, learning should be a threshold, and scientific research can only be carried out after crossing the threshold. In other words, Bly and Owen is only suitable for learning, not research. Thinking back to the scene when the replicant used the research station for scientific research, it looked like an experiment. Although the content of the experiment was a bit childish, then the scientific skills of the replicant are actually an ability that tends to be experimental research. Thinking of this, Jiang Sheng remembered that Bly and Owen occasionally mentioned the reason why he wanted to take the postgraduate entrance examination in a different major, and it seemed that it was because he didn't like doing experiments. Environmental science is an interdisciplinary science that tends to be theoretical research oriented. If you continue to study, your future studies and work will be inseparable from experiments. In other words, the person you are looking for is not in the library, but in the laboratory. Speaking of the laboratory, Jiang Sheng really wants to go to the laboratory recently, because Jiang Sheng has already collected a considerable number of samples in Noah, including Noah's soil samples, water samples, etc. Although he already has various views, Jiang Sheng still wants to understand some more microscopic things through testing. It seems that he has to find a laboratory next. Cycle 5 Colonial Report. Details of the replicants. Calories produced. 0 cal consumption. 6000 cal net value, minus 6000 cal pressure increase. 3% decrease. 0% net value. 3% disease status, no sick replicants. Time details, working time. 62%. Walking time. 4% idle time. 0% base details, oxygen output. 2.5 kilograms, consumption. 1.5 kilograms net value. 1.5 kilograms comprehensive evaluation, survival points plus 15 at the beginning of a new day. Jiang Sheng received yesterday's colony report as usual. What made Jiang Sheng happy was that after re-ranking the beds of the replicants yesterday, the sleep problems of Bly and Owen were indeed solved. The proof is that yesterday, when the positive buff of discovering new friends had disappeared, the survival point evaluation was still 15 points. Moreover, with the solution of the sleep quality problem, the stress of the replicants has also been alleviated, and there is no longer a significant increase in stress. But the current stress situation of the replicants in Noah is still not optimistic. Bly. 21% Owen. 29% Jiang Sheng. 1% Although all negative buffs have been eliminated, it is obvious that the source of stress is not just the negative buffs. There are more subtle things that affect the stress of the replicants. For example, poor quality food. Therefore, in order to further prevent the pressure on the replicants from growing, Jiang Sheng can only wait for the research on food technology to be completed to see if he can get some higher quality food sources. Among the technologies currently being studied, Jiang Sheng is most looking forward to the building, called the planting box. Before the research is completed, Jiang Sheng cannot see the specific properties of the planting box, but he can see a simple introduction. Planting box. Cultivate seeds into plants. Since it belongs to a type of food technology, it is very easy to understand that it can be used to cultivate seeds into food raw materials. At present, Jiang Sheng has a lot of seeds, as many as 10. In the algae cave, there are also a considerable number of seedlings of various plants. However, due to the limited natural conditions of the algae cave, it can only maintain the survival of the seedlings, and cannot make them grow. Therefore, the current colony has no source of edible crops. But the emergence of the planting box should improve this situation. For this reason, Jiang Sheng needs more space to plant these seeds and plants. The interior of the base is definitely not okay. Jiang Sheng does not want to plant some unknown plants in his limited activity space. And the cave next to it, which was originally used to accommodate the new building, was transformed into the bedroom of the replicant. So in order to build his own plantation, Jiang Sheng needs to expand his colony. That is to say, dig another cave. But where to dig this cave requires Jiang Sheng to think carefully. The growth of plants must focus on the condition of temperature, which is the case for any known or unknown plants. Since the seedlings and seeds of these plants appear around the base, it means that the current temperature of the base is just the right temperature for these plants. The temperature around the base is still relatively stable, and it is difficult to change significantly in the short term. But in fact, there is a factor that has been affecting the temperature in the base. That is the heat generated by the machine. In all machines that use electricity, there will be an explanation of the heat. According to Jiang Sheng's previous experience, the construction instructions for the replicants are not particularly detailed, and some details will be ignored. For example, when the replicants use the research station, water is clearly used, but because too little water is used, it is ignored and not introduced. The same is true for pigments. On the other hand, isn't the part that appears in the introduction the part that cannot be ignored? The heat generated by these machines seems insignificant, but this is below the surface, and there is no natural means to dissipate the heat. Sooner or later, the colony will become a big stuffy pot. Even if Jiang Sheng saw the existence of temperature regulation technology in the technology tree of the research station, the temperature difference will definitely exist in the colony. So Jiang Sheng now has to establish a general idea for base construction. For example, where is the high temperature zone, and where is the low temperature zone? The high temperature zone is naturally used to place a large number of heat generating electrical equipment, which is the so-called industrial zone, while the low temperature zone is actually a normal temperature zone, used to grow food, and provide it to the replicants as a living area. Since the construction idea of the colony has temperature considerations, it is necessary to consider a more important point, that is, air. At present, there are oxygen diffusers in the base. As long as there are algae, oxygen can be produced all the time, so there is no need to worry too much about the oxygen supply. But in fact, the carbon dioxide produced by breathing has not been processed. Carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen and will settle on the ground. This is junior high school knowledge. If a horizontal colony structure is built, the settled carbon dioxide will accumulate more and more, and these carbon dioxide will be difficult to flow to other newly built areas due to the same horizontal height. Finally, the carbon dioxide reaches the breathing height of humans, and humans cannot breathe oxygen, and the colony declares GG. So after comprehensively considering the geographical conditions and actual conditions here, Jiang Sheng proposed a vertical colony development idea. Chapter 23 Noah's Up and Down Passage. The so-called vertical colony development idea is to use the structure of a building to build a layered colony structure underground. The base where the printing cabin is located is the first floor, and the upper floors are the second and third floors, which extend infinitely. The lower floors are the first floor, second floor, and third floor, which extend infinitely. This idea has many advantages compared to developing the entire colony into a whole plane. First of all, the accumulation problem of carbon dioxide can be dealt with. As long as the colony is a vertical structure, carbon dioxide will naturally settle to the lower space of the colony, so that the air content in the upper space of the colony can be guaranteed to be normal. If the accumulation problem of carbon dioxide cannot be solved in a short time, it is also possible to accommodate excessive carbon dioxide by excavating the lower area. This method will greatly sacrifice the mobility of the lower space, but it will definitely guarantee the air quality of the upper space. This reminds Jiang Sheng of some doomsday movies, in which the different levels of human gathering areas seem to have obvious height differences. For example, humans living in the sky live a luxurious life and dump garbage on the ruined ground, while humans on the ground can only pick up these garbage to survive. Or a train speeding through the world of ice and snow. People in the front carriage can always enjoy rich supplies. The resources in the carriages further back are getting worse, and in the last carriage, only cockroach sticks are left. This is not only the gap between human classes, but also a manifestation of the tilt of social resources. In the doomsday, resources are limited. As long as the direction of resource flow is determined, some resources will inevitably be sacrificed to ensure the other part. Although the current situation of this colony is not the end of the world, it is already the end of the world for the free-breathing Earth. So considering making appropriate resource tilts is also what Jiang Sheng needs to do. In this way, the problem of how to set up the high temperature zone is also easily solved. Since the lower space is used to accumulate too much carbon dioxide, it is definitely not suitable for living. So setting the high temperature zone in the lower space is definitely the best choice. The high temperature zone is the industrial zone. Industrial buildings are mostly self-operated and do not require manual operation by replicators. The time that replicators need to stay in the industrial zone will be relatively short. If it is a short period of breath holding, it is not difficult for replicators. Jiang Sheng once calculated the breath holding ability of replicators in an oxygen deficient environment, and the result was unexpected. The clones can work for 12 minutes while holding their breath, and then they will return to a place with oxygen to breathe. The world record for holding breath underwater is more than 20 minutes, but that is just staying underwater without moving while the clones are working. In other words, the clones' breath holding ability is much higher than that of ordinary humans. Although the clones look like iron fools, their physical fitness is definitely that of Super Saiyans. Therefore, as long as the stay time is short, the lack of oxygen in the industrial zone will not pose too much threat to the clones. At most, the work efficiency will be slower, and they will have to return to a place with oxygen to breathe once in a while. In addition to temperature and carbon dioxide, the vertical colony construction idea has other benefits. Structural stability. Underground colonies are like mines, and the stability of the structure must be considered. Jiang Sheng's current base is actually not very stable, because the upper ceiling is just ordinary sand and soil. Once it collapses, it is equivalent to digging a grave for himself. Therefore, Jiang Sheng must reinforce the ceilings and floors of all activity spaces with bricks to prevent collapse. Assuming that 2 horizontal caves with an area of 16x3 are reinforced, 16x3x4 bricks are needed to reinforce the ground and ceiling. Just like this. But if the vertical colony construction idea is adopted, only 16x3x3 bricks are needed to reinforce 2 areas with an area of 16x3. Just like this. Not only does it save a lot of brick resources, it also saves a lot of labor. Moreover, hollowing out the upper space is also a burden reducing for the structure of the entire colony. The last benefit is to meet the exploration needs of the colony. There is a material layer below the surface, and the material layers at different depths have different resource distributions. If you want to explore more types of resources, it is most reasonable to unlock the fog of war in a vertical way. Moreover, there are spacesuit technology and rocket technology in the technology tree, which means that Jiang Sheng can conduct surface exploration and space exploration. If these 2 explorations are to be carried out, it must be the most efficient to develop colonies vertically. So on the whole, vertical development of colonies is obviously the most reasonable development idea at present. If there is only one bad thing, it is that the up and down displacement consumes too much physical strength, and there is no flat structure to save energy. But this is not a problem for the clones with Super Saiyan bodies. Since this development idea has been determined, Jiang Sheng's newly planned cave is just above his base. To strengthen the strength of the ceiling, you must start from your permanent base. After all, your own safety is above everything else. First, Jiang Sheng planned a 1x1 channel in the gap between the base and the clone's bedroom, then hollowed out the channel, and built a ladder. It allows the clones to move up and down. Materials: 100 kilograms of sand and gravel. This means they can crawl on it. This is also one of the basic technologies. Just like pneumatic doors and bricks, it is also a kind of basic construction technology. Jiang Sheng had never built a straight up and down passage before, so he did not use this technology. The ladder is built very quickly. It takes about 5 minutes to build a ladder at the construction speed of Bly 0, and the length of a ladder is 1 meter. It takes 100 kilograms of sand and gravel to build a 1 meter long ladder, but Jiang Sheng does not feel sorry at all, because Jiang Sheng still has 76.9 tons of sand and gravel. Sand and gravel can be said to be the most frequently used, but also the most worthless resource in Noah. The ladder built by the replicant is not the kind of movable tool ladder, nor is it the beautiful and labor-saving inclined staircase of humans, but a ladder sculpture attached to the wall of the passage. Yes, it is a sculpture again. The replicant has a strong passion for sculpture. No matter what building is built, there is more or less a sculpture element in it. The beams on the left and right sides of the ladder are tightly attached to the walls of the passage, and they are like an integrated sculpture with the wall. The steps are fixed on both sides of the raised beams, and the middle is suspended. It is okay to step on it, or hold it with your hands. Jiang Sheng walked into the passage, and looked up at the top of the passage. The passage is still very short, about 8 meters long, and there are only 4 ladders in it. Bly is standing on the 4th ladder, and using the production gun in his hand, to build the 5th ladder. Jiang Sheng secretly made up his mind, sooner or later, this passage will be able to lead directly to the surface. Chapter 24 5 samples. Soon, the clones Bly and Owen built a 9-section ladder, and now the length of the ladder is more than enough to reach the cave above the printing cabin base. If the clones want to perform tasks, there must be a route to the mission location, otherwise the mission will be assumed to be unperformable. So if you want to go out to perform tasks, you must first ensure that the clones have a route to the mission location. In terms of moving routes, clones are actually very stubborn. Whether the horizontal span exceeds 1 meter or the vertical height exceeds 1 meter, they will treat it as impossible to cross. If it is a normal person, they will try their best to create conditions to cross obstacles, but the clones will not. They will only stand in a daze and wait for Jiang Sheng to plan a better route for them. The advantage of this extremely obedient setting is that the clones will never do anything unauthorized and destroy the construction of the colony. The disadvantage is that they are stubborn and Jiang Sheng has to take care of them in every detail. Now with a ladder, Bly and Owen can climb to the top of the base and dig a new cave. Jiang Sheng plans to plan the area of the cave above the base to be exactly the same size as the base, and the height is also 4 meters. That is to say, a space of 16x3x4 needs to be excavated. In addition, Jiang Sheng also needs to change the floor of this cave to bricks to ensure the stability of the colony structure. Such a large amount of work will be completed almost until late tomorrow. If Bly and Owen are only responsible for excavation, it will actually take about 10 hours, but the human-powered generator in the base needs someone to run the wheel, and the excavation of new space also requires a large amount of oxygen to be produced by the oxygen diffuser. Although the electrical appliances in Noah are all connected to the wires, they will not consume electricity as long as they are not used, and the battery will slowly leak electricity. But if the electrical appliances are used frequently, the battery will run out of power very quickly, and the human-powered generator needs a clone to run the wheel frequently. This is the disadvantage of the human-powered generator. The power generation efficiency is low, and it consumes labor. Back to the rental house, Jiang Sheng took a look at his WeChat. The teacher he contacted yesterday has already responded. Hua King University Teacher 1, I have made arrangements for the laboratory. You can go anytime this week. Great. Jiang Sheng didn't expect it to be so smooth. He just applied to the teachers of other schools to use the laboratory yesterday, and he got a reply today, and Jiang Sheng was given a week at once. The Jiangsheng University where Jiang Sheng studied and Hua King University belong to a university alliance, the C9 University Alliance. The C9 University Alliance is a university alliance formed by 9 top universities in China. Its purpose is to compare with the CCT University Alliance in the United States. In order to strengthen cooperation between universities, the government spent a huge amount of money to build a university town for these 9 universities, which is the C9 University Town. The geographical alliance allows C9 to have more in-depth cooperation such as exchange students, seminars and other exchange mechanisms of regular university alliances, as well as laboratory resource exchanges and university club exchanges. As long as you are a student of any of these 9 universities, you can apply to other schools to use laboratory resources, and even join other school clubs. Despite this, Jiang Sheng has never applied for a laboratory with teachers from other schools. In fact, the School of Environmental Sciences of Jiangsheng University has its own laboratory building, but if it is a teacher from Jiangsheng University, he will definitely use the school's database to search for the topic that Jiang Sheng is researching. Jiang Sheng, a salted fish, has no topic at all. As long as he looks for it, it will be exposed, and it will be difficult to explain at that time. But it is easier to apply to teachers from other schools. As long as the database finds that you are indeed a student of Jiangsheng University, they generally don't care whether you have a project or not. Anyway, the general laboratories that can be easily borrowed are general laboratories. As long as they have your identity information, they are not afraid of you making trouble. However, general laboratories are enough for Jiang Sheng to test the various samples obtained from Noah these days. Without further ado, today is Monday, and there should be fewer people in the laboratory. He can do the test in a low-key manner, and then stay in the laboratory of Hua King to fish and see if he can find someone suitable for scientific research. Jiang Sheng has 2 purposes for finding a laboratory. One is to test the samples obtained from Noah, and the second is to see if he can obtain the high science gene blue group. When he arrived in front of the laboratory building of Hua King University, he showed his student ID to the security guard, registered simply, and entered the building. The security guard was still very familiar with the regulations between C9, and all C9 students were allowed to enter the laboratory building. Jiang Sheng quickly came to the door of the laboratory he wanted to borrow, pushed the door, and the door was not locked. After changing into a white coat and coming to the experimental area, Jiang Sheng found that there was already a person standing next to the experimental operating table in the distance, doing something unknown. Jiang Sheng didn't want to attract this person's attention now. He just wanted to finish the test in a low-key manner. He didn't want to be approached, and he didn't want people to notice the sample in his hand. Although Jiang Sheng looked a little mediocre compared to the group of academic masters in Jiangsheng University, he could still operate various basic tests skillfully. Jiang Sheng prepared 5 samples this time. There are ordinary soil samples, contaminated soil samples, ordinary water samples, contaminated water samples, and tissue samples of clones. The soil and water samples were obtained from the basin reservoir caves. The contaminated soil is the product of the clone's excretion, and the contaminated water is the dirty water after the clones washed their hands. As for the tissue samples of the clones, they were skin scraps that Jiang Sheng secretly scraped off with a knife while Bly was sleeping. Although Jiang Sheng only did a little bit and there was no wound at all, Bly's life value still dropped by 1 point to 99. Jiang Sheng thought that Bly did rough work every day, and even normal body friction every day would produce more skin scraps than he did. Why would he lose a drop of life value when he scraped a little, but he wouldn't lose it when he worked normally? Fortunately, the bed of the replica has a self-healing function. As long as he lies on the bed, he can recover 25 life points in one night. This one life loss is nothing. In fact, there are more samples in Noah, but for Jiang Sheng, most substances can see their structure through the material view, and there is no need for microscopic analysis. On the one hand, analyzing these 5 samples is that these have been in contact with me for a long time, and it is always good to understand them in detail. On the other hand, it satisfies my curiosity, especially the tissue samples of the replica. Jiang Sheng first processed the samples, and then operated them rigorously according to the knowledge learned in class. During this period, Jiang Sheng would also look at another person in the laboratory from time to time. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. He's in the laboratory so early. He should be a nerd. And this nerd is not wearing the simplest white coat on Jiang Sheng, but a full body protective suit, which is tightly wrapped from head to toe. Although there is no harm in taking more protective measures, this is just an ordinary laboratory. There is no need to dress it up like a biohazard, Jiang Sheng secretly complained in his heart. Chapter 25 The Hand of God. After a while, the test reports of ordinary water samples and contaminated water samples came out first. Although Jiang Sheng had tried his best to control his emotions, he still couldn't believe the test results. Because the microbial content of ordinary water samples is basically the same as that of earth water samples, but there is only one type of microorganism, and it is an unknown microorganism. Observed under a microscope, this microorganism is close to a triangle, and its shape is somewhat different from that of common microorganisms in water. Jiang Sheng searched through his knowledge base, and couldn't find out what this microorganism is. In other words, this should be a microorganism unique to Noah. There is also a kind of pathogen in the contaminated water that Jiang Sheng and the instrument can't distinguish, but the number is extremely large. As for why Jiang Sheng knows for sure that it is a pathogen, it is because a pathogen view shows that there are pathogens in the contaminated water. But other than that, there is no other discovery. Jiang Sheng remembered that the water tank on the left side of the wash basin is the clean water pumped up from the reservoir cave, and the water tank on the right side is the contaminated water produced after washing hands. Why is there no large number of microorganisms in the contaminated water after washing hands? Can this unknown pathogen act on unknown microorganisms? Jiang Sheng mixed a drop of clean water with polluted water and observed it under a microscope. The microorganisms in the clean water did not die after being mixed with the polluted water. On the contrary, the microorganisms were greatly strengthened under the stimulation of the bacteria, just like a hungry person seeing food. Jiang Sheng's head was a little confused now, because this was too unreasonable. There was only one kind of microorganism in the clean water and only one kind of bacteria in the polluted water. It was originally thought that the microorganisms were killed by the bacteria, but in fact, the food of this microorganism was the bacteria. If this is the food chain relationship, how can a large number of unknown microorganisms in the reservoir survive without bacteria as food? You must know that the bacteria in the polluted water are washed down by the replicants after washing their hands, not originally in the clean water. In other words, can the unknown microorganisms in the reservoir survive without a food source? Or is this unknown microorganism a facultative trophic type, such as Rhodospirilla? Of course, there is another possibility, which Jiang Sheng thought might exist before. That is, there is an unknown organism X in the reservoir, and it is the unknown organism X that creates suitable living conditions for the unknown microorganisms. However, Jiang Sheng took too little sample this time, and failed to detect the existence of the unknown organism X. Jiang Sheng lowered his head, and continued to watch the situation under the microscope. He found that the unknown microorganism was slowly approaching the bacteria. Although the speed of approaching was very slow, it was still obvious that it was approaching. Half an hour later, Jiang Sheng checked the situation again, and the situation under the microscope shocked Jiang Sheng. He saw that 2 or 3 unknown microorganisms were adsorbed on a pathogen, surrounding the entire pathogen. The feeding speed of the unknown microorganism was very slow. During this period, Jiang Sheng was doing soil sample analysis and occasionally came back to check the feeding situation. The analysis of ordinary soil samples and contaminated soil was also completed during this period. There are very few types of microorganisms in ordinary soil samples, and the content is even pitiful. Jiang Sheng believes that the poorest soil on the earth is also fertile soil for Noah's soil, and contaminated soil is also relatively simple, which is to add a certain pathogen that also exists in contaminated water to ordinary soil. Through these analyses, Jiang Sheng discovered a problem. That is, the biodiversity in Noah is extremely poor, and can even be described as scarce. Even if you dig a shovel of soil from the Antarctic glacier, the number of species contained in it may be far more than all of Noah. The existence of biodiversity is very important for maintaining a normal and good ecosystem, because the more species in an ecosystem, the stronger the creativity of the biological system and the more tenacious its vitality. But Noah is different. There are very few species of organisms here, but the interaction between the species can maintain a delicate balance. For example, there may be some kind of organism X in the reservoir cave, which provides a suitable environment for unknown microorganisms, and the existence of a large number of unknown microorganisms makes the water in the reservoir cave become water that can be used by clones. For example, there are glowworms in the algae cave, and the light of the glowworms just provides light for plants and algae. Algae can provide oxygen for clones, and plants can be cultivated to become food. If it were on Earth, it would be understandable that the natural relationship evolved over a long period of time, but Noah is below the surface. According to the temperature gradient, whether it is up or down, it will not be an environment suitable for these organisms to survive. And just around the printing chamber, there is an environment suitable for these creatures to survive, and these creatures just happen to survive, and there is a delicate natural balance between these very few creatures. All this is too coincidental. It's as if there is an invisible hand of God, adding bricks and tiles to this fragile underground ecosystem, adding a little here, and a little there, and finally forming this miraculous environment. Just as Jiang Sheng was standing next to the laboratory table thinking, a voice came from the other side of the laboratory table. "Your sample." This voice interrupted Jiang Sheng from thinking. Looking up, it was another person in the laboratory who walked to his laboratory table and looked down at the analysis report of the clone skin tissue sample that had just been printed. Jiang Sheng quickly put down the soil sample report in his hand, ran over, and snatched the printed report back into his hand. The man was obviously startled by Jiang Sheng's excessive reaction, and took a step back. Jiang Sheng quickly checked what was on it, that he couldn't tell anyone. 80% protein, 19% water, 1% unknown. No more. "Sorry, I'm just taking a look. I don't mean anything else." A female voice came from under the tight mask and goggles. Jiang Sheng forced a smile, but he was still very nervous inside, because Jiang Sheng didn't know if she had seen any key points. But Jiang Sheng couldn't bring it up directly now, for fear that the person in front of him would ask him what the sample was. Jiang Sheng was very careful when placing the sample. The person in front of him would definitely not be able to see it, but it would be difficult to explain if he was asked, because this ingredient must be a freak ingredient. "Did you synthesize this yourself?" Jiang Sheng was stunned at first, then nodded. Yes, I synthesized it myself." The person in front of him didn't mean to continue asking questions, and turned to leave. But at this moment, Jiang Sheng quickly stretched out his hand, and said the most standard opening remarks at the same time. Hello, my name is Jiang Sheng. Please ignore the professionalism, just to let everyone know about Noah's basic situation. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.